It'll make more sense.
One's qualifying. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. I can't even get through the first sentence without screwing things up. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Gregg Ginsberg, along with Brendan Kazmarek, and we're kicking off the first of 3 days here at this beautiful classic racetrack, one of the stalwarts of the Super Tour schedule, and one of the most storied racetracks in North America. Heading out on track right now for qualifying is our first group, but let's do this. Brendan, first off, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Greg. How are you?
I'm doing very well, other than the fact that I can't form sentences here today. Must be something when I get below the Mason-Dixon line or something. I don't know. But we've got 3 days of action here for rounds 5 and 6 of the Super Tour this weekend. For those of you who are not familiar with Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, why don't we take a quick look, if we can, here at this beautiful and very difficult race course, Brendan, here as we are just, about an hour north of Atlanta in Braselton, Georgia. A beautiful, a little bit over 2.5 miles, 12-turn racetrack. And this, Brendan, is a track that I consider to be probably, if not the most challenging and perhaps most thought-provoking racetrack in North America. It's got to be very close. It puts the fear in the eyes of so many racers, especially the first time they've ever raced here.
It's a racetrack that when you see it in person for the first time, you think this place shouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Right? It's a place that cameras will never do justice. It does not translate the elevation change, the amount of elevation change and severity of all of that onto cameras at all. You really need to come see it in person. We've got 240 cars here this weekend that'll have the chance to do exactly that.
Yes.
I remember my first trip here back in 2009, and it really is eye-opening to see exactly what Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta has to offer. Of course, the Petit Le Mans is one of the great endurance racing events in the United States, even at its relatively young age. And I really feel that it owes so much of that classic nature of that event to what the racetrack is and how true to its history it stayed, with only a handful of really minor changes other than over here at turn 10 over its long history. Yep. It still offers to modern drivers now what it offered to drivers back then.
Exactly. Yeah, and you can see almost all the way around this race course, concrete walls lining the edges of the track, not a lot of room to go if you go off the course. This is the area of the track that Brendan was referring to that is very different from when this track opened down in 1970, I believe, where it used to be the gravity cavity. You just drop down and then raise right back up to the turn 11 bridge. And, perhaps, Brendan, when I talk about striking fear into drivers when they come here for the very first time, the first thing they see when they come in through the front gate at Road Atlanta is the rise of turn 12 directly in front of them. And it's about a 65, 70-foot drop straight down. And you look up to the hill, you're looking at it as cars are coming towards you, but it is as breathtaking as it is breath removing, I think, from most drivers.
I mean, it shouldn't exist. You are immediately presented with a place that is unlike any other in North America. Maybe Bathurst in Australia is a good comp as far as the degree of elevation change. You talked about the braking zone over here at turn 10, which is no longer the gravity cavity. Great name for a corner, but obviously in the interest of safety, back in the mid-90s, it had to go. And they replaced it with a top-speed braking zone that our fastest cars this weekend are going to approach at something like 155, 160 miles an hour. Yeah. Modern IMSA prototypes, GTP cars, will easily do 185, 190 there. With the grip going away from the front of the car as you crest over the hill all the time.
Yep.
I mean, it really just is. It is North American motor racing at its finest. It really is.
Absolutely. There is everything to challenge a car here, from straight out running, coming out and digging out of turn 7 onto this incredibly long back straight, to blind corners, blind entries, blind exits here. This is turn 12, and again, this camera view just does not do the elevation change here justice, and it takes so much grit in order to just force your right foot to the floor.
Yeah, and to tie that into our first run group here this weekend, which is going to be these SMX cars, not only do are you being asked to tackle the racetrack on its own, but you're doing most of that through the windscreen of the driver in front of you. These spec Mazda cars, these NC MX-5s, along with the NA and NB cars that make up the spec Miata class later, that long back straightaway really keeps these groups of cars together. Right, and it puts an emphasis on not giving up too much time here through the S's in a large group of cars, and then being able to draft all the way up from turn 7, flat out down to that turn 10 braking zone we were talking about earlier. So your run from, let's say, the exit of turn 1, up over the tabletop at turn 3, down through the S's, up the hill on the other side, and over the crest at 5 Alpha. All of that is probably being done straight through the roll bars and the windshield of the guy in front of you.
That you don't see the pavement directly in front of the nose of your car.
Which now is about trust, right? Not only can you handle the racetrack on its own on, relatively skinny tires in a car that's all about momentum, now you're doing it all surrounded by, 10, 12, 15, 20 of your closest friends.
Exactly. And as you're saying that, and as we're watching this on the camera, Brendan, this is not a race. This is qualifying. As these drivers are trying to stay together, work together in order to set their fastest lap. So that said, let's talk just briefly about what our schedule for the weekend is. We have our drivers heading out on course right now. Again, this is the first of 7 different race groups that are going to have their first 25-minute qualifying session today. Today, this afternoon, it is nothing but qualifying. These racers had practice sessions this morning before we went on air. So we're going to have 25-minute qualifying today. That should take us through the end of the afternoon. Tomorrow morning, we will be on air once again, starting at 8 o'clock in the morning, where our 7 race groups, they will have 15-minute qualifying sessions. And both of these qualifying sessions will set the grid for our sprint races tomorrow, which start at about 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, a 25-minute sprint race for each of our 7 groups. And then on Sunday, we'll be back once again at about 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's a feature race day where our racers will have a 19-lap or 35-minute race, whichever happens to come first.
Yeah, it's worth noting, Greg, to a couple of points here. It was a relatively last-minute schedule change that allowed us to generate some bonus track time. Let's say an extra session, that extra qualifying 2 session, or I guess it was an extra practice session this morning. But anyway, we have a full run of qualifying 2 sessions, as you said, on Saturday, which is not the way these 3-day Super Tour events typically go. Normally, we'd be starting qualifying 2 right about now. Instead, we get Q1, so it's a little bit of bonus coverage, I say in air quotes, from DriversEye Live here and the SCCA, which is fantastic. The other thing that does, Greg, is remember that these SMX cars, the Spec Miata cars as well, all run tire marking.
Yes, correct.
Which means that now you've got Q1 and Q2, this extra afternoon session and an extra morning session tomorrow, on marked tires. Practice does not include tire marking.
Correct.
But the qualifying 1, qualifying 2 sessions absolutely do. So, practice you might be able to get away with it here, but you're going to be putting 2 heat cycles at least on the tires tomorrow.
Right.
Through that Q2 session. So there are a handful of groups here that kind of have to adjust their thinking maybe a little bit. Okay, it's the same amount of marked tire sessions, but they come at slightly different times. And whereas these cars might not have gone out in an early morning session, it's going to be much cooler, I think, tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
When we go and tackle Q2. And I think we're going to see most of these cars, if not all of these cars, out for both qualifying sessions, trying to improve when the conditions are a little bit more ideal tomorrow.
Yeah, indeed. And so we had this last year was the very first year for the SMX class for Spec MX-5, and we had as part of the rule set for the Hoosier Super Tour this tire marking. This is actually something new in Spec Miata, who are going to see a little bit later. They are going to actually be our last qualifying session of the afternoon, and it really creates or increases the need for strategy to get through the weekend. That you're not throwing brand new tires on for that longer feature race on Sunday. You're running the same tires that you started off the weekend with, or started off qualifying with, and you need to make sure that they're there for you until the end. All right, so if we take a look at our qualifying currently, and we've got them listed on the left-hand side of your screen. Fastest driver currently is out of Winchester, Virginia, Camden Gruber in the number 24 Planet Miata car with a qualifying time of 1:38.662. That is about 0.15 of a second up on Matthew Novak. out of Bartlett, Illinois. Novak driving the number 11 machine. Cam Eben in the number 55 machine out of Appleton, Wisconsin, currently your third fastest driver. He is only 11 one-thousandths of a second back from Novak. Then Logan Stretch, 8 one-thousandths of a second back from Cam Eben. So we are, just to put things in perspective, and I'll tell you, the top 13 drivers are all within a second of one another. The top 4 are all within 17 one-hundredths of a second of one another.
Yeah, it's exactly what we were talking about here. You may lose a little bit in the faster corners where maybe you can't follow quite so closely, but you're going to draw back up to the car ahead of you down the long back straightaway between turns 7 and 10 here. So, a couple of wheels off there on the exit of 6. And so really it keeps these lap times extremely close. Having that second half pull back, the second half of the lap pull back up to the car in front of you. And anyway, this is what you come to expect in this type of spec racing. Spec Miata's have kind of made their name on that type of racing. Spec MX-5 doing very much the same in now its third season of existence. Now
second officially, yes. Second is as a national class, and 2 years ago was a demonstration class at the national championship runoffs at VIR.
Just real quickly, Greg, I know we got to take a break here. However, I think it's important to acknowledge one other thing. Speaking of Spec Miata, slightly different program in place here this weekend for lunch, which we just wrapped up. For the first time at a racetrack, you brought my lunch over here while I was setting up some cameras. There's a tag on the lunch, on the crate here that says, drivers were asked if they would like to buy a worker lunch. Christian Meyer in car number 92, Spec Miata, bought your lunch today. If you have a chance, stop by his pit and say thanks. If not, give him a wave and a thumbs up. I can't do that because I'm locked on the second floor of the tower with you, which is fine. No, it's okay. But consider this your shout out, Mr. Christian Meyer. Thank you for lunch today. And I know, Greg, you've got a driver.
Not a Spec Miata driver, but Russell King, Spec Racer Ford driver of the number 12 machine that purchased my lunch. So
How cool is that?
Yeah, I think that is neat. And as I was up picking up our lunches here today, Brendan, I think every single one of the lunches, and we have, I think, somewhere along the lines of 100 or 120 volunteers from the Sports Car Club of America helping put on this event. That means at least half the field, half the drivers here, because we've got about 240 entries, stepped up to buy the volunteers lunches, and that's wonderful, and we want to thank them. All right, so let's do this, Brendan. We're about halfway through our first session here, a little bit less than halfway, actually a little bit more than halfway through. Let's take a quick break. Thank some of the great partners and sponsors that bring you this broadcast here from Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, where it's rounds 5 and 6 of the Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour. We'll be right back. Hoosier Racing Tire is proud to be the presenting sponsor of this year's Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour. As the world's largest race tire manufacturer, Hoosier has been at the forefront of motorsports innovation for more than 65 years. From local tracks to the global stage, Hoosier is dedicated to delivering high-performance tires that meet the demands of champions. Whether you're a seasoned competitor or an aspiring racer, Hoosier tires are engineered to help you push the limits. For more information, visit us online at HoosierTire.com or visit us trackside, and remember to connect with us on social media.
Hagerty is the official and exclusive insurance partner for SCCA. Hagerty provides affordable off-track insurance protection for motorsports vehicles while in the paddock, in transit, in storage, and at the shop. They provide guaranteed value coverage and even have protection for your trailers. SCCA members can save 5% on insurance through Hagerty. Hagerty, let's drive together. Learn more at Hagerty.com.
For more than 30 years, championship-winning drivers have demanded the Hawk Performance braking advantage. Now you can experience that same advanced technology on your daily car, truck, or CUV with Hawk Performance street products. With brake pads, rotors, and fluids that deliver smooth braking for muscle cars and tuners, Super Duty solutions for tow vehicles, custom-engineered motorsports friction designed specifically for road racing, autocross, drag, and everything in between, Hawk has all your braking needs covered. Visit hawkperformance.com to learn more. Hawk Performance, what's stopping you?
Ready for a new race trailer? Bravo Trailers is the exclusive partner of the SCCA. Owned by longtime SCCA racers, Bravo Trailers work better, load easier, and tow better because they build them with the racers in mind. Visit bravotrailers.com to see your new trailer in aluminum or steel.
Tire Rack was established over 40 years ago by an SCCA member with a passion to find the right tires, wheels, and now brakes and suspension products for racers and enthusiasts on both street and track. As official tire retailer of the SCCA since 1995 and sponsor the Runoffs Pole Award, along with the National Solo Program, National Time Trials Program, and Track Night in America, Tire Rack is proud to support the SCCA and its members as they go have fun with cars.
If you like what you see today, become part of the action by joining the Sports Car Club of America. Whether you want to drive, flag, organize, officiate, have fun with cars, or meet 65,000 enthusiast friends, SCCA offers plenty to feed your motorsports obsession. Ask someone trackside how to get involved, or visit scca.com for more information.
Welcome back, everybody, to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. I'm Gregg Ginsberg, along with Brendan Kazmarek, and we're bringing you qualifying here for rounds 5 and 6 of the Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour, and we have about a little bit less than 9 minutes remaining in our first qualifying session of the day, where Camden Gruber leads the Spec MX-5 racers with a time of 1:38.662. Matt Novak now just about 0.15 of a second back with Cam Eben and Logan Stretch. We then have Ethan Jacobs as our fifth fastest racer right now at a 1:39.190. So about half a second separating our top 5 racers. And hopefully, I know we've got Ethan Jacobs running some in-car video. Hopefully we'll be able to get some of that when we go racing tomorrow and Sunday. We'll try to bring that to you here. We've got actually a number of racers that are that have some in-car streaming video we'll use to enhance your view of the weekend here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Also should mention to all of our folks here at the raceway in the paddock, if you have some issues hearing the wonderful PA system here at the facility, you can tune into 98.1 on your FM dial and pick up the dulcet tones of Brendan and the gravelly tones of myself.
98.1 FM. I was walking around listening to the incredible audio quality that our friend Dave
Miller
here,
amazing sound
is
system
responsible for at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. And I wanted to make a note to remind everybody that if you need to hear it in real time, you can do that on 98.1 FM as well as the PA system here. So.
Yeah. Dave's been talking us up all morning. We might as well.
How much did you pay him?
I didn't pay him a thing, which is amazing.
I've been called a professional more times today than I have in the last 3 years.
I know. Certainly not. Certainly more today by him than by me. Yeah. But Dave's great.
Can I just give a quick YouTube chat shout out to the Luke Pullen fan club, who have come out in some numbers on their Friday evening.
Oh, really? Because because I was going to say they're off across the pond.
Luke out of London, England. I know we've seen him in SMX and SCCA cars before, but currently up in the top 6 with names like Logan Stretch, Ethan Jacobs, Cam Eben. Fantastic work for him to bring his fans along in the YouTube chat at the very least, and putting on a good show while they're doing it.
Indeed, and I think we've got Yuri Colossos here looking after the prod races a little bit later, but prod qualifying a little bit later. We've got it looks like Julian Fichter and the Fichter family. Actually, I think they're cheering for Julian and Jason Fichter, but the Fichters here, and Jillian had some challenges at the runoffs this past year, and glad to see her back behind the wheel after a pretty vicious hit there. So hopefully, let's take a look and see where they are currently. Jason Fichter currently running 19th with qualifying time of 1:39.990, and let's see if we have a time for Jillian. Yeah, and of course I don't see Jillian.
I don't see her now. Shouts to Emmy Kissick down in the number 13 car.
Yes.
We saw her out 2 weeks ago.
She's at
Buttonwillow Raceway Park. Yep. I think I don't know if it's a full season.
Well,
something close to it.
Yeah, she is one of the 2025 Mazda MX-5 Scholarship Award winners, along with Vinny Miskelis, as well as Joey Andrews, and so Miskelis. Not here racing with us, at least not on track at the moment, and I'm looking to see if Jason is on track currently. I don't see him out here.
Oh, good heavens. Sorry, Greg.
Yes.
Jillian Fichter's in the chat.
Oh, that's...
She'll be back
sorry,
racing
Jillian.
in May. She had open heart surgery 2 months ago.
Oh, my gosh.
Good heavens.
Oh, my
And
gosh.
She'll be back racing by, back racing in May?
Oh, my
Does
God.
that timeline work? That's the James Candelaria track there.
Yeah,
Tremendous.
exactly.
Well, hope the recovery is going well.
Yes,
Thank
absolutely,
you for joining
Julian.
us, and looking forward to seeing you back behind the wheel of a race car.
I mean, we had her. I had her in and intervied her at the runoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry if I made her heart stop or anything from the interview, but sorry, sorry. That's because I've been getting pumped up by Dave Miller all day. But great to hear it, and hope to see you behind a race car real soon, Julian. Sorry about that. All right, let's see here. Yeah. So, we've got Vladimir saying that Vinny is on track currently. What am I missing? Oh, yes, Vinny is the number 12 machine with qualifying time at the moment of 140.4, currently 23rd fastest in the session as we've got about 3.5 minutes remaining. Real quick, let me make another call to the grid for our next race group. Attention in the paddock, second call to the grid for race group number 2, GT1, GT2, American Sedan, Touring 1, Touring 2, and GTX. Please head to the grid. Race group 2, this is your second call to the grid.
One other name to watch out for here on live timing and scoring, Greg, is down in P9 at the moment, the number 1 car, Sebastian Mateo Naranjo.
Yes.
Who has been back in the SMX cars for the first time in 2025, but has been the featured driver, one of the featured drivers in a handful of the best Formula F races I've ever seen right here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta.
I would say here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Brian and I always talk about the race that he had at Sebring 2 years ago with Nolan Aller.
Yeah.
That was absolutely amazing. And so, he goes by Mateo. Was, I believe, one of the top runners in Formula Race Productions FRP Pro 1600 Series last year. He also won the Super Tour Points Championship in Formula F last year, and he has moved over to Spec MX-5 this year, showing what he can do in the touring cars.
I think we may have talked about him a little bit back at Sebring.
Yes.
The easy thing, or the easier transition here for Mateo, is going to be that even though it's a very different style of car, it's going to race very similar to the Formula Fs, right? That pack racing, follow the car in front of you as quickly as you can or as close as you can through the corners, draft back up on the straights, and choose your moves and the places you make the moves very carefully and deliberately. I know Mateo's got a lot of racecraft that he's built up from his Formula F and F1600 campaigns. Excited to see him behind the wheel of the SMX cars, 30-something cars on track. It'll be really fun to watch how these races pan out here on Saturday and Sunday.
Indeed, and he had a very good first outing at Sebring. I'm sure he's looking to move up through the field. It does take a little bit of time to get associated with this pack racing. Even if he was doing pack racing in Formula F, there's a little bit of a difference with an open wheel car directly in front of you versus having to look through the roll cage of that car. And sometimes not one car, but multiple cars ahead of you, and then try and get your timing down here. So as we now have about minute 20 remaining in qualifying, it is Camden Gruber. He set his fastest lap on his second flying lap, Brendan, at a 138.662. He maintains a 0.15 of a second advantage over Matthew Novak, with Cam Eben still 11/1000 of a second back from there. Logan Stretch another 8/1000 back, and then Ethan Jacobs, who is sitting right now just about a half second off pole, with Luke Pullen running 6th fastest at the moment with a qualifying time of 139.232. Rocco Pasquarello, Camden Hibbett, they're 7th and 8th, and Mateo Naranjo currently 9th, and then Marcello Paniccia running 10th fastest.
Y'all are going to figure out that name eventually.
Yes, well,
Marcello Paniccia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we had all the Italians in the chat at Sebring trying to explain to Brian.
Italy.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's just a couple of seconds left here on the timer, Greg. SMX qualifying 1. Remember, we'll have this group kick off our action tomorrow morning with qualifying right at 8:05 when cars roll off. And then race time for Group 1, they'll start off our 25-minute race sessions at 11 o'clock a.m.
Yes.
Yep, so 2 races before lunch as well. It's really good stuff. Checkered flag out is what I hear, Greg.
That is what I'm hearing. And as I look out the window, the checkered flag, oddly enough, Brendan, being displayed. And I think we've got at least one car that now has taken the checkered flag. So the last flying laps here will count.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting, Greg. I'm not seeing a lot of late improvements from these SMS cars.
Most everything was set early.
I don't know if it was go get that lap on fresh tires, the best tires you're going to have all weekend, ostensibly anyway. Camden Gruber did exactly that. Second lap, 138.662. Never improved on that time, and put it out in front by a tenth and a half of a second over the number 11 of Matthew Novak.
Yeah, a matter of fact, as we go down and look through the order, Brendan, out of the top 10 drivers, I think eight out of the top 10 set their fastest laps on the second or third lap. Yeah. Most of the drivers running somewhere around anywhere between 8 and 10 laps. The one outlier actually is Ethan Jacobs in the 199 machine out of Oshkosh. He ran 10 laps, set his fastest lap on lap number 8. So very late in the session for him.
That's the one car. That is
right.
The one outlier.
He's the outlier. Yeah. Exactly. Almost everybody else laps 2 and 3. Rocco Pasquarella and Matteo Naranjo on their 4th lap.
Yeah.
And for these spec tires, that may just be the golden lap. Lap 2, lap 3, they come in very early, and then you just have to manage them for the rest of the race. All right, so let's see, Brendan. Yes.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, and as it appears, and we do have a few cars, I think, on course, but as I look at our timing and scoring, our wonderful multi-sector timing and scoring that you can see in real time at scca.com/live. I don't think we've got any drivers still on flying laps. So let's do this. Let's take a quick break. We're going to come back in just a few moments with our next race group, the big ground pounders. But actually, Jordan, before we take that break, let me make a final call to the grid for him. Attention in the paddock, final call to the grid for race group number 2, GT1, GT2, American Sedan, Touring 1, Touring 2, and GTX. Please head to the grid. Race group 2, GT1, 2, and 2, American Sedan, T1 and T2, and GTX. Please head to the grid.
Mazda's been very supportive of racers within the SCCA and all the other grassroots organizations for many, many years. Really, their support for racing and our type of racing is unmatched from any other manufacturer. They've been a great partner for many, many years.
Mazda, hands down, is the best company to work with for sports car racing. Factory support is second to none. It just feels right. You feel connected.
Welcome back to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. It's the 2024 Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour. I'm Gregg Ginsberg, along with Brendan Kazmarek, and it is qualifying here today at the raceway. Next out on track, the big ground pounders, our GT cars, as well as our biggest and fastest touring cars, and in addition to that, the pony cars, the American sedans. I haven't checked to see if we've got the Cadillac pony car out here today, but and we're on board right now with James Candelaria in his Touring 1 Chevrolet Corvette. James, who started the runoffs in Touring 1, the national championships this last year at Road America, I believe, on the outside of the front row.
Yes, he did.
And great fast machine, and we should have a real treat for you. I think we might have an onboard from Dave Panterick, who was our 2017 GT1 national champion. There it is. There, probably the slowest portion of the track for this 800 horsepower beast. Essentially a Trans Am car here, as he makes his way right behind. I would call him his biggest protagonist this weekend, Michael McAleenan.
Usually is,
in the GT1 Lamborghini Huracan.
Yeah, keeping up with Michael fairly well here. It's still early days. These big ground-pounding cars do tend to generate a fair amount of heat into the tires pretty quickly, but it does still take a lap or two to get that all up to operating temperature and pressure. Unlike the SMX cars, I think we'd anticipate these cars to set quicker times later in the session.
Right.
They come up to temperature, pressure, and a bit of fuel burns off for this 25-minute session.
And in addition to that, we've got on board, this is James Davidson. He is driving a Touring 2, I believe, Chevy Corvette as well. He's out of West Melbourne, Florida. That's a car I think also runs many times. If you saw the DriversEye live coverage from Sebring International Raceway a couple weeks ago for the regional race there, he was running Inspect Corvette in his machine. So we've got a number of drivers to keep our eyes on here, but very nice diversity, I guess, Brendan, as far as the types of race cars that we've got on track at the moment. Of course, we've got in the exact same class up, 800 horsepower Mustang versus what is essentially an FIA GT3 Lamborghini. We've got the Corvettes and Camaros. We've got Tiger Tom Patton in his, oddly enough, GT2 Sunbeam Tiger, which has very little left of Sunbeam in it.
Oh, it's a backwards Corvette here at the exit of turn number 10. James Davidson pointed the wrong direction there, but good visibility for getting himself pointed back in the right direction underneath the Fox Factory Bridge. And we look out the window here in our little commentary booth at the exit of turn number 12. This will unfortunately scrap not only the lap he was on, but the lap after as well. Another car off the bottom of the hill. Yeah, and that was... That's a 63, Greg.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that was Tony Cook in the Camaro drivers left as he gets that car back underway. There, Tony racing today in GT2. He's out of Hoover, Alabama. Does get that machine back underway. We've also got Tom Ellison and not cars that went around as we were talking about the different types of machinery that we have out in this group. Some of the pony cars, an American sedan. We've got Tom Ellison, his Ford Mustang. We have, I believe, Greg Eaton, who is a multi-time, I think 3-time national champion in American sedan, also in a Ford Mustang. James Jost, another former national champion, in a Mustang in a light blue machine. I don't believe, and this is actually leading this train up the hill towards turn 5. That's the 63 car of Tony Cook leading them through. As Cook now sure trying to get some of the dirt and grass and what have you off the tires, get the heat back in the tires so he can get back underway and get through qualifying. Michael Chameleon, a longtime GT Light and is also production car driver. Last year brought out a Ford Mustang in Touring 2. Not sure if it's the same chassis, but he has now, both at Sebring and here, been running a Mustang in American sedan. So change for Chameleon as well.
On board Panterick down into the braking zone at turn number 10. Peaked at just about 160 miles an hour at the end of the back straightaway. There's a chance he was going even more quickly than that before we jumped on board. Just at the tip top of the hill there at the braking zone, Panterick will bail for the pit lane. We're using the support pit lane this weekend. Not really of any consequence to us, but Dave demonstrates the appropriate pit entry there off to driver's left from up at the top of the hill underneath the bridge. It's interesting, Greg. These GT1 cars, relative to the GT3 cars, obviously make a lot more speed down the back straightaway. That is, and has long been the calling card of Trans Am Pro cars, as well as GT1 Club Racing cars. You would expect the Michelin car, which does now sit at the top of the timing order, having just improved to a 123.091, to carry quite a bit more speed through turn 1, turn 3, right, which are reliant a little bit more on aero. Turn 3 not so much, but turn 1 for sure. Down at the bottom of the here, turn 12 as well.
Yes.
And one of the things I was observing a little bit earlier, it's a borderline flat-out corner here at the bottom of the hill in most classes of SCCA cars. But it's different when you're borderline flat out at 95 or 100 miles an hour in a Miata versus in a Trans Am spec GT1 car.
At 160, yeah.
Exactly. Well, so the Trans Am car is probably doing about 130 at the bottom of the hill. And having to trust that car is going to stick at the compression and that committed back to the throttle, you're not going to ride over the curb in the dirt here on the backside
where you've got concrete wall less than 10 feet away from the track surface.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it was interesting because our announcing partner Brian Bielanski had Dave Paterick on his Inside the SCCA podcast this week, primarily to talk about the Super Tour here at Road Atlanta, but also to talk about GT1 and Trans Am. And Dave had mentioned here at Road Atlanta that one of the most challenging corners in his car, especially if it gets damp, of course, is turn 12. And being a guy who races a 130 horsepower Honda, it didn't really dawn on me for 2 or 3 seconds why that would be such a problem for him.
It's funny. It's a type of corner that under any other presentation it might not be quite so terrifying.
Right.
But you are met with this concrete wall and a couple of stacks of tires at the bottom of the hill there. And more frequently than maybe we would all admit, we do see cars get it a little wrong coming through the corner.
Yes.
And, down the front straightaway here, there's concrete walls either side that are a good 6, 7, 10 feet high. And it kind of leads you into this high-speed canyon down the front straightaway. It just does take a couple of repetitions and building that trust in the car and the tires for those conditions that the car is going to stick when you get there.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. And differences also, and again, we talked at the Open about so many of the different challenges here and how this racetrack pretty much has every type of corner for every type of car. As you trust yourself and trust your right foot to come through turn 12, you then have something like this, coming through turn 1, heading up a hill that is a very high-speed corner. It is one that, if you have aero assistance and a good amount of downforce with that car, certainly helps. But, for a lot of cars, it's just a brush of the brake, a turn in, and pray that the car holds. As you track up and start to head up the hill. I assume in something like a GT1 car, it's something very, very different. It's more of a point and squirt type corner more than anything else.
Yeah, I want to take a look at our GT2 field here, Greg. Barry Bowes is your current provisional pole sitter in the GT2 class of 127.005, so just about 4/10 in hand over Austin Jers in the number 131 at a 127.388. Another, let's say, let's call it 6/10. Actually, not anymore. 10th and a half. Jack Stanford in the number 15. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 cars from GT2 right in a row there. And one of the cool things about this event in particular, the way it's timed at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, is this is just off the back of the Sebring event for the Trans Am series and the TA2 category cars there, and just ahead of their event here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta later on this month. It's a great opportunity to come get some test time. Your cars are already race prepped, ready to go. It's a quick transition into GT2 out of the TA2 spec cars, and we get almost year in, year out here, a pretty healthy dose of these two-frame Camaros, Mustangs in that TA2 spec. And then you throw Tom Patton in there in the number 50 Sunbeam Tiger, as you said, a little less Sunbeam than it used to be. but super competitive up into the top 4 now.
Yes.
At a top 5, of course. As I speak, things change. Oh, no, it is still top 4 because... No, it's top 5.
Top 5. Yeah, it just turned in a 127.859.
Yeah, the change was that Joseph Frieda jumped to the GT2 field to go 3rd in GT1 and 3rd overall. Anyway, keep an eye on that GT2 race this weekend. We have one qualifying session, of course, to come tomorrow morning. Second session out would be at 8:30.
And their race at around 11:40 tomorrow morning, just before we break for lunch.
You know, it's pretty useful track time here for those GT2, well, for every one of our competitors in this group, because the conditions today now will probably match the conditions tomorrow at 11:40 fairly closely.
Yes.
We're a little bit cooler today. It's taken a little bit longer to warm up. Tonight's low temperature is a little bit higher. Tomorrow's high, a little bit higher. And I think that couple of hour differential between now and 11:40 tomorrow is going to match things pretty closely. So, useful data gathering here, I would think.
Yeah, indeed.
Drivers.
You know, and since, you know, as far as temperatures go, you know, since we're down in the deep south right now, ambient air temperature right around 60, 61 degrees. So still pretty cool out. There's a light wind blowing, not much. You can see there from the treetops heading down into turn 10A, but not something that's going to affect these cars very much. A little bit later when we've got our open wheel cars may become a factor. Should also mention right now running, he was running in 9th. He's now dropped back to 11th position. We've got actually, no, Patrick Gutt. He's sitting in 9th right now in the red, white, and blue number 49 Chevy Camaro. He got into racing. He says here some people retire because they don't want to do anything. He says he retired because he wants to do everything. And Patrick's got a long history in motorsports. Owned the Racequip company, safety equipment company, for a number of years, and he was his crew for his brother when he raced in Trans Am back in the 70s and 80s. So you know, neat to see how after retirement he gets behind the wheel of the car. And I think he's coming up from Tampa, if I remember correctly. Originally from Wisconsin. Yeah. But now from Tampa. As we watch here, Dave Pinterick, just as obviously he finished up his time in the pits, and to see that car blast down the hill towards 10, and there you go. That is a lot more than the 100 miles an hour or so that I would go through turn 12 in my CRX.
We need to take a break here quickly.
Yes,
Greg,
we do.
I just want to point out one other thing. Number one, the downside of the way we have things set up here at DriversEye Live is we don't get to hear the ambient camera audio. So if you're listening to the audio off this Sentinel V3 camera, please enjoy it on our behalf.
Yes.
I would love to be able to hear the big old lump in the front of this GT1 Mustang. Unfortunately, we can't do that. The other thing I wanted to point out, watching that speedometer in the bottom right-hand corner, I believe that's still a GPS speedometer from the way James had things set up, although it's updating very quickly, so it's possible it's not. Top of the hill, end of turn 9, turn 10 area, 176.
Oof.
So that's the top speed of your GT1 cars, making, as you said, something like 800 horsepower, dragging all the way up and down the hill. It's really, really cool stuff for the first time to have us, for our first time having this onboard camera in a GT1 spec car.
Well, let's check real quick. 175, 6, 7, 8. 178 before hitting the braking zone for turn 10. All right, with that, we're not going to be nearly as fast as Mr. Pinterick, but we are going to take a quick break. Before we do, let me make a call to the grid for our next group. Attention in the paddock, first call to the grid for race group 3, Spec Racer Ford Gen 3. Please head to the grid. Spec Racer Ford Gen 3 racers, please head to the grid. Your group is next. All right, we're going to take a little break. We'll be back here in just a few moments with more action from Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta.
For more than 30 years, championship-winning drivers and teams have demanded the Hawk Performance braking advantage. Now you can experience that same advantage technology on your daily car, truck, or CUV. With brake pads, rotors, and fluids that deliver smooth braking for muscle cars and tuners, Super Duty solutions for tow vehicles, custom-engineered motorsports friction, designed specifically for road racing, autocross, drag, and everything in between. Hawk has all your braking needs covered. Visit HawkPerformance.com to learn more. Hawk Performance, what's stopping you?
Summit Racing is a proud partner of the SCCA and its nearly 70,000 members. Get more bang for your buck at summitracing.com. Choose millions of in-stock parts from over 1,500 name brands, parts for racing, street performance, trucks, plus tools, accessories, and more. Shop anytime, anywhere with the Summit Racing app.
Ready for a new race trailer? Bravo Trailers is the exclusive partner of the SCCA. Owned by longtime SCCA racers, Bravo Trailers work better, load easier, and tow better because they build them with the racers in mind. Visit bravotrailers.com to see your new trailer in aluminum or steel.
For more than 100 years, Sunoco, SCCA's official fuel partner since 2001, has been fueling victories on and off the track, which is why Sunoco has trusted to fuel over 50 series of racing, driving, and winning, including the SCCA National Championship runoffs, SCCA Pro Racing, Trans Am, and NASCAR. To find race gas near you, visit SunocoRaceFuels.com or call Sunoco at 800-RACE-GAS.
Mazza Vineyards is the exclusive sparkling wine for podium celebrations at the Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour, SCCA Runoffs, and Tire Rack SCCA Pro Solo. Celebrate your racing weekend with Mazza Vineyards and learn more at enjoymazza.com.
Did you know SCCA members can save $20 on every track night they sign up for? That's right, Track Night in America, driven by Tire Rack, now hosting 150 events at more than 30 tracks across the country. It's the easiest and most affordable way to get you and your friends on track in your street cars all year long. Visit tracknightinamerica.com to learn more and get yourself on track.
It's the 2025 Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour, the premier amateur road racing series bringing together top SCCA road racers from across the country. The Hoosier Super Tour visits some of the greatest tracks in North America, showcasing each of our 23 car classes. From production to GT cars, prototypes to Formula cars, the Hoosier SCCA Super Tour packs a ton of wheel-to-wheel racing action into every event.
Welcome back, everybody, to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, the 2025 Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour. And Brendan, just as we went to break, we had a driver have some challenges with that braking zone down at the bottom of the hill over at turn 10A. One of our TA2, GT2 Mustangs down there, and I'm still trying to get the number on the car, but it kicked off a mass exodus to the pit lane. In doing so, as a lot of drivers were having to basically call off some flying laps and start to finish their sessions up a little bit early.
Yeah, one of the drivers that we did just see into the pit lane, but managed to avoid the yellow flag area down there at turn 10. Patrick Paul in the number 44.
Yes.
Out of the GT2 class, up to the pole position, provisional pole position in class, less than a tenth of a second ahead of now the 00 of Jared Odrick. Barry Bowes falling all the way from first to third in the number 32. So the front row, provisional front row anyway, all change in GT2. Good lap from the 44 of Patrick Paul, good lap from Odrick. And as I said earlier, Greg, these cars, as compared to the SMX cars in Group 1, it take a little bit longer for things to come up to operating temperature and pressure. They're a little bit more weight sensitive, so that fuel burn off is going to assist there as well. Just saw Barry Bowes across the line and does not improve on his 12th lap, 1:27.262. Close so far to his best time, and in the dying minutes here, just 5 minutes left on the clock, maybe Barry Bowes in that 32 car can throw a lap together here and get back up onto the provisional front row.
Yeah, indeed. And and as we were looking at this, the separation between Paul, Odrick, and Bowes in the top three in GT2 right now, and Paul, this is his home track. He's out of Kennesaw, Georgia. Has a lot of seat time here. But of course, Odrick, who was our 2023 GT2 national champion, Barry Bowes, who has a lot of seat time in TA2 GT2 cars as well. They are separated by 18 100ths, almost 19 100ths of a second. That is all that separates your top three racers, with Austin Jers another 2/10 back from there, and Jorge Nazario. And the 165 Chevy Corvette of Nazario did some test and tune work last weekend, I think at Sebring. I think Andrew Aquilante was there behind the wheel of that car after it had gotten some repairs. Nazario, he's in fifth fastest driver right now. He's only 21 thousandths of a second back from Jers. The top 6 drivers separated by 0.7 of a second here. If we look at Touring 2, Rafael Asuncao is currently your leader. James Davidson, second fastest, about 2 seconds back from there. And Basimo Dalla, third fastest in the class. In American Sedan, Tom Ellis, currently your fastest driver. The Pompano Beach Ford Mustang driver has a 1:35.811. That's 3/4 of a second up on Michael Kamalian. Then Greg Eaton, third fastest, and James Jost, who's currently about 3 seconds off a provisional pole. We saw him take the car back to the paddock when we went to break, so pretty close there. And in T1, James Candelaria, he's got 0.3 of a second on Zach Monette. Monette in a Chevy Camaro. Juan Carlos LaRue in a BMW M4, currently about 2 seconds separating the top 3 there in class.
Yeah, appreciate Jared Aldrich, second place in GT2 at the moment, holding it down for Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Escaping some of the cooler weather up there, and I guess coming to some cool weather this morning down in Georgia as well. Home of some of the finest meats you'll ever eat, Greg. Lebanon, Pennsylvania.
Lebanon, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, highly recommended. Also near the Pennsylvania State Renaissance Fair, if that's something.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not right there, but close enough.
All right, as we go back on board with James Davidson right now. Davidson, currently your second fastest driver in Touring 2. We'll see him now. We should see him coming underneath the Fox Factory Bridge. That's what I meant to say. And coming down the hill where, well, maybe there he is.
Yeah, I think we've had just about everybody bail out of their qualifying attempts here, Greg. A couple of cars putting some laps in. As we said, maybe just trying to get the right feel for the conditions, get as much data as they can before they have to set their pressures and car setup for the race tomorrow.
Yeah.
Barry Bowes, we thought might throw a lap together late to try and get back up onto the front row. Not the case. 158.5 has that car back into the pit lane. We see the light blue Ford Mustang down to our left-hand side here. Michael McAleen in the Lamborghini Huracan also into the pit lane. We have the 57 2 Corvette.
Right, that's Davidson, who we were just watching the onboard as he decided to peel off. Big size group now coming out of turn 10. Looks like being led by I think that is actually the UT car, the Patrick. No, not Patrick Utt. I'm sorry. I think that might be Ostringer. Yeah. I was watching the little red Corvette directly behind.
Nice to see a handful of GT4 spec cars down in T1 this weekend as well. We know there's a handful of options for those GT4 cars to come and race in the SCCA should they so desire.
Right.
Seems like they're starting to coalesce around the Touring 1 option and boost the T1 fields here just a little bit. Obviously, the Touring 1 spec Corvette of James Candelaria up on the provisional pole at the moment, but the Chevrolet Camaro GT4R of Zachary Monette there in second. Juan Carlos LaRue, that BMW M4 is also a current spec GT4 car, the G82 BMW M4. So good parity there in Touring 1 as well.
Yeah, indeed, as we're watching them roll down the hill.
Yeah.
Now come down through the S's. Well, that's not the LaRue car. I don't think that's in that group. As I believe we're going to see the checkered flag here in just a moment. And yeah, it's nice to see them coalescing around Touring 1 now. For a couple of years, we saw where they were splitting time between, or not splitting time, but a number of drivers setting the cars up for the Touring 1 class, some for the GTX class as well. And as GTX, I don't believe has an entry at the runoffs this year, it kind of makes more sense to run in Touring 1 if you're looking to go for a national championship.
Yeah, we cover a lot of motor racing on DriversEye Live with GT4 spec cars on a DOT tire.
Right.
A 200 tread wear tire. It's a similar sort of approach in Touring 1, if I'm not mistaken, there as well, where you're required to run a DOT legal tire there. They do handle on those tires fairly well.
Right.
Pretty limited aero. They get a little lively. They do move around a lot, but on a good tire, they will stick pretty well and help build the confidence there. So, like we said, good parity there across the spec lines in Touring 1.
All right, so there we go, and I think we've got our final drivers making their way, I think, onto the back straight. I didn't see, let's see, Patrick Utt who just I think just crossed the line. Ooh, we got one of our Mustang. I think one of our American sedan Mustangs decided to take a whole bunch of dirt with him, Georgia clay, right underneath the starter stand, and was able to gather the car back up. Bassem Abdullah in his BMW M240i completes his last lap, and I think everybody else here is on a cool down. So let's quickly take a look. And again, this is after a single qualifying session. We will have a second qualifying session starting tomorrow morning for each one of our 7 race groups, starting at around 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. The best time from either one of these 2 sessions will set the grid for tomorrow's sprint races. So in Touring 2, Rafael Suncow, your provisional pole sitter after day 1, James Davidson second, Bassem Abdullah third fastest. In Touring 1, as you mentioned, Brendan, James Candelaria, your fastest driver, with Zach Monette and Juan Carlos LaRue making up your top 3. In American Sedan, Tom Ellis, Michael Chameleon, and Greg Eaton. In GT2, Patrick Paul, Jared Odrick, and Barry Bowes, your top 3. And finally in GT1, Dave Pinterick sets a faster lap time than McElheenan. This is a bit of a surprise, almost 0.8 of a second faster than McElheenan, with Joseph Frieda in his little red Corvette, the 122 car, your 3rd fastest. All right, let's make a final call to the grid for our next group and then take a little break. Attention in the paddock, second call and final call to the grid for race group number 3, Spec Racer 4 Gen 3. Please head to the grid. Spec Racer 4 Gen 3 racers, please head to the grid. Your qualifying session is next. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back here in just a few moments from Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta.
My customer experience with Mazda has been absolutely fantastic.
I'm probably not the richest person out here, and they're extremely reasonably priced, and you can buy parts easily, and it's a class that fits both what I want from a racing standpoint and what I can afford.
We got into Mazdas largely just because it's a fantastic platform, and Mazda Motorsports has some of the best support for the grassroots racer in parts and technical advice and everything else, so they make it easy for us to run these cars.
Picture your perfect garage. How many cars are in there? Great, great. Now picture reality. How many cars can you actually have? Me too. With SCCA Club Spec, one car becomes your daily, your track car, your autocross car, even your time trials car. S197 Mustang if you like V8s and torque, NC Miata if you like compact and agile. SCCA Club Spec, spirited dailies, competitive race cars. Learn more at scca.com.
Welcome back, everybody. It is Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. It is the 2025 Hoosier Racing Tires SCCA Super Tour. I'm Gregg Ginsberg. He's Brendan Kazmarek. And next up, and it's also Jordan Worth. He's pushing all the buttons here this weekend. We would be remiss if we did not mention the wonderful Jordan Worth, who brings you all the great views and everything else associated with these Super Tour broadcasts. Heading on their outlap right now is Spec Racer Ford Gen 3. And, you know, Brendan, much like we were talking about SMX and Spec Miata and how you use the draft to work around this race course. That, however, is not how you use the draft here. As we actually had cars off in the grass there, as I think, you know, we've got racers trying to jockey up and team up again to work and use the draft here, Brendan, that they did set the grids, how cars lined up for this session based on the practice times from this morning, and you may find a lot of racers maybe out of position with some of their teammates.
This looks nothing like a qualifying session.
Yeah.
We're going straight into racing here in the Spec Racer Ford Gen 3 group. The idea is that you get yourself a couple of degrees of temperature on your half an out lap before the double yellows get dropped. You bring yourself up to speed gradually, and it allows the whole field to condense back into something of a pack.
Right.
You don't get any stragglers off the grid that impact the way they can draft through the session. There's a handful of reasons why the club does that.
Right.
For these, especially for these spec classes. What we saw in the back straightaway there is not one of those reasons. You're not supposed to be nose to tail trying to pass, making contact.
Well, they were on the widest portion of the race course, like 5 and 6 wide, and I think still trying to scrub in tires. It was interesting, Brendan, because you and I were discussing. We were listening over to the flag net here before the cars left the grid for the outlap, and the talk was that drivers had been warned about scrubbing in tires, essentially moving from one end of the track surface to the other. And I guess they decided maybe there was a better way to do it. Yeah. I don't know. Or maybe the further from the grid they were when they decided to start scrubbing in tires, the better. But here, as we've got our racers on what is essentially their very first flying lap, you can see here where, at least now, they're all single file. And they are starting to, although, it looks like one long train, we can see where they're starting to pair up in many cases throughout this pack.
Just looking at the entry list for this weekend here, Brian Schofield and Clay Russell crossed the line first. They were first and second off the grid by virtue of being first and second in practice this morning. Right. Tyler Stevens third, James Goffrey fourth, and Bobby Sack down in fifth. You will notice by their absence, Greg, names such as Denny Stripling,
yes,
Dave Ogburn. I don't see Judson Holt here. We did see, or I saw them out last weekend, right, on DriversEye Live. It looks like they've decided to not participate in this weekend's racing at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, which leaves a slightly different cast of characters at the very, very top. Brian and Clay are obviously no strangers to the top of Spec Racer Ford Gen 3, but still, leaves a little bit of a power vacuum at the top.
Sure.
Maybe a couple of different names than we might otherwise see up there.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, the Schofield, who ran the table at Sebring, as he so often does, in the number 61 machine, is out of Lakeland, Florida, a former national champion. Clay Russell, a two-time national champion in Spec Racer Ford Gen 3. He's just north of here, Spartanburg, South Carolina. James Goffrey, a former national champion. We've got Bobby Sack, a two-time national champion. I mean, these are all drivers that are, well, at least off of the outlap in their top 5. Tyler Stevens, out of Oklahoma, out of Bixby, Oklahoma, so near good old Hallett Motor Racing Circuit, third fastest on the opening lap. And, I think maybe an outlier here is we've got drivers running a little bit wide coming out of 10A and 10B. Maybe an outlier here. It's somebody we should take a look at as Tyler Stevens goes to the top of the order here after 2 flying laps. Jace Petty driving the 117 machine, currently sitting 7th. He finished at the 2023 National Championship runoffs, I think in 5th position. So just off a podium at, I think, 15 or 16 years old. We spent all of 2023 talking about Morgan Burkhardt because he was on the pole for that national championship race and how well he did. And Jace Petty kind of flew underneath the radar for that entire race, that entire championship weekend. So good to see him out here. We did not have him down at Sebring. We'll see how he does here this weekend. Of course, we've got the Baldwin Juicy Fruit car, the 25 machine, I think 6th fastest currently. So again, some of the folks that we would expect to see here and run in the top 10, not here. That definitely opens up the door for a number of other racers.
Yeah, hopefully the pace stays in that Richard Baldwin Juicy Fruit car longer than the flavor stays in Juicy Fruit gum.
Yes.
Get a couple of laps out of it.
Nothing against you Wrigley fans, but
if you were watching live timing over either on scca.com/live, which is the primary source for multi-sector timing, or over on Race Monitor, which is sort of the independent display of timing, if you like, the leaderboard changing quicker than either of us were going to be able to talk.
Yes.
And it's going to happen again. Tyler Stevens does, at least for the moment, bounce back to the top of the running order after being dropped just very briefly. 134.514 is your provisional pole time in SRF Gen 3. Brian Schofield into second, 34 thousandths of a second back, then 10 thousandths back to Peyton Long, 33 thousandths back to Clay Russell, 83 thousandths back to Jace Petty. And I think I've made my point, Greg.
Yes.
We saw this at Homestead. If you remember our majors coverage back at the beginning of the year,
right,
almost on a lap-by-lap basis, almost identical lap times on a repeated basis, and in many cases, actually identical lap times on a repeated basis. These SRF Gen 3 cars are so closely matched.
Indeed.
They are such good race cars if you like that spec environment. A little cheaper than a spec Miata, right? Especially to go up at the tippy top of the class.
Nowadays, yes.
And yes, for sure. And if you like the open cockpit sort of prototypes or sports racer vibes to motor racing, this is your class. And the racing is, as far as I'm concerned, unparalleled.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And and again, at a track like Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, where this back straight is so incredibly long, it makes up for some of your possible deficiencies on the first half of the course, that you are able to draft up to the cars ahead of you as you come down into the braking zone for 10A and 10B. Heaven help you if you outbrake yourself and you get onto the brakes maybe 5 or 6 feet too late going down into 10A, as well we saw in the last run group here. But you can see how everything compresses back down for this portion of the track. And so yes, the top 10 racers are all separated by 0.6 of a second.
Look at the top, Greg.
Yeah.
1,000th
of a second.
Peyton Long and Tyler Stevens.
Yeah.
How good is this?
This is amazing. And as you go and you take a look, Jace Petty now moving up to 3rd fastest in the field. He's miles back time-wise from Long and Stevens, almost 0.3 of a second back from there. But Brian Schofield only a 10th back from there. We have Schofield and Clay Russell, who are working together and have been, as they came off the gate towards the very front of the field, they're separated by 43 1,000ths of a second.
Well, but if you look at the last laps, Greg, it was 1,000th of a second, 135.071
yes.
and 0.072. So I think maybe whoever the lead car is, there may be a slight mistake on the last lap. And then they came back into the throttle on lap number 5. To try and pull back up to the Long, Stevens, Petty trio that currently sits atop the provisional timing sheet.
Yeah, and a matter of fact, we just saw Brennan coming out of turn 7. It looked as though that was Schofield and Russell, and I think and there they are side by side right now, coming down the back straight. It looks like they've broken off and maybe have thrown this lap away, or perhaps one of them is going to decide to come into the pits. As we've got a local caution now over by turn 5. And I believe it may, I was trying to get the car number. I think it was the number 3 car that had gone off. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, bottom of the hill there, Greg.
Yeah.
On the entrance to turn number 6. Did we get a number for that car?
I think it was Daniel Mathias. I think it was the number 3 car.
All right.
And, oh, yeah, there is, and obviously there we got the driver right before turn 6. That is not the 3 car. We can see he's waving his hands, I think, to let the corner workers know that he's okay. I believe that is the 58 car that is there. That is Jackson Deal out of Granger, Indiana. that has pulled his car off on the side of the track there. So we will likely have a local caution coming out of turn 5, the exit of 5, heading down towards turn number 6, and we should be going back to green flag going into 6. But given how close to the corner that 58 car is, definitely slow the entry into what is the only very heavily cambered corner here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Brendan, we are running up on just about midway through this session. Let me make a first call to the grid for our next group, and then we'll take a quick little break. Attention in the paddock, first call to the grid for race group 4, Super Touring Light, Super Touring Under, GT3U, T3 and T4, please head to the grid. STL, STU, GT3U, T3 and T4, please start heading to the grid. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back here in just a few moments with more action from Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta.
Hoosier Racing Tire is proud to be the presenting sponsor of this year's Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour. As the world's largest race tire manufacturer, Hoosier has been at the forefront of motorsports innovation for more than 65 years. From local tracks to the global stage, Hoosier is dedicated to delivering high-performance tires that meet the demands of champions. Whether you're a seasoned competitor or an aspiring racer, Hoosier tires are engineered to help you push the limits. For more information, visit us online at HoosierTire.com or visit us trackside, and remember to connect with us on social media.
For more than 100 years, Sunoco, SCCA's official fuel partner since 2001, has been fueling victories on and off the track, which is why Sunoco has trusted the fuel over 50 series of racing, driving, and winning, including the SCCA National Championship runoffs, SCCA Pro Racing, Trans Am, and NASCAR. To find race gas near you, visit SunocoRacefuels.com or call Sunoco at 800-RACE-GAS.
Tire Rack was established over 40 years ago by an SCCA member with a passion to find the right tires, wheels, and now brakes and suspension products for racers and enthusiasts on both street and track. As official tire retailer of the SCCA since 1995 and sponsor of the Runoffs Pole Award, along with the National Solo Program, National Time Trials Program, and Track Night in America, Tire Rack is proud to support the SCCA and its members as they go have fun with cars.
Mazza Vineyards is the exclusive sparkling wine for podium celebrations at the Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour, SCCA Runoffs, and Tire Rack SCCA Pro Solo. Celebrate your racing weekend with Mazza Vineyards and learn more at enjoymazza.com.
Hagerty is the official and exclusive insurance partner for SCCA. Hagerty provides affordable off-track insurance protection for motorsports vehicles while in the paddock, in transit, in storage, and at the shop. They provide guaranteed value coverage and even have protection for your trailers. SCCA members can save 5% on insurance through Hagerty. Hagerty, let's drive together. Learn more at Hagerty.com.
Want to try SCCA racing, but with an approach focused on fun and learning? The SCCA Experience Program is exactly that. With both short sprint races you can drive by yourself and endurance races you can do with friends. All you need is an SCCA membership, a driver's license, a properly equipped car, and the right driver gear. Visit scca.com/racex to find more information and events near you.
Welcome back to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, everybody. It is Gregg Ginsberg, it is Brendan Kazmarek, and it is also time for our very first black flag of the day, where all of our drivers are going to be asked to come down the pit lane. And that is because, well, we got a couple of things going out on track right now.
Yeah, you can see about a quarter of one of those things to the far right side of the screen here, Greg. Did we get a number on that car over at turn 5?
Indeed. It has been a very bad day, Brendan, for, I believe, what is the number 3 car of Daniel Mathias, or at least it's been a very bad day for him at turn 5.
Oh, okay.
As he had spun the car early on, I think on the first flying lap, and he is the car that is currently buried in the gravel trap on the outside of turn 5. We also, of course, have the 59 machine that is over by turn number 7, or probably turn 6. And then it sounded as though we might have had another car off, possibly over by turn 1. And I think that's the 68 car. So what race control has done is they've gone and not requested, but are having all of our racers come down the pit lane, assuming they're not stuck on course somewhere in a gravel trap, and the clock will continue to run. Our emergency services teams will try to get everything cleaned up in time, so hopefully we've got another lap or more here that these racers can go back out.
Yeah, apologies for the slight out of focus-ness here at the top of the hill at turn 10. Normally on DriversEye Live here we try and get all those little details right, but unfortunately when you set cameras up in the daytime, it gets a little bit harder to tell as you start to walk away. And that one, and I guess we got a camera over at the exit of turn 5 that could use a bit of adjusting as well.
I just thought it was my prescription.
Also down at turn 1. We're having, I guess, a little cellular issue down there. This isn't Sebring anymore, Greg.
No, it is not.
Hills and trees and the odd spotty cellular spot down there. So could use a reset, but in the meantime, happy to sit up here and hang out with you.
Thank you.
And call these qualifying one sessions.
I'm glad you're able to prioritize like that.
Yeah. I wouldn't leave you hanging like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, so as you can see here, we're trying to get the car, and again, we think that's did I say it was the 58 or 59 that is over there by the entrance to turn number 6. And in addition to that, let's see. Where is it? Yeah, I think it's a 59 that's over there. And in addition to that, we've got the number 3 card, and we've got the teams responding to that. And I think that may be it, although looking to see, we thought that the 68 car might be off on the outside of turn 1, and I don't see that car over there now. So hopefully we'll be going back to green flag action here in just a few moments. Again, reminder to everybody here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, if you have trouble hearing the wonderful PA system that the facility has, or you're in the car and driving to another one of the great spectator areas here, you can pick up our broadcast on 98.1 on your FM dial. So strongly urge you to go use that. And this weekend, we will have more action for you tomorrow starting at 8 o'clock a.m. or 8:05 a.m. With the second round of qualifying for each one of our 7 race groups, and then we will go racing right around 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Those are our 25-minute sprint races on Sunday when we join you for the final day of action here for Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta at just about 8 a.m. Remember, daylight savings times, spring forward, fall back, so 6 o'clock forward Saturday night. 8 o'clock in the morning, I know it'll feel like 7, we'll have the start of our 35-minute or 19-lap sprint races for all of our 7 race groups. Wanted to thank a bunch of folks here for joining us this weekend. We got David Ryder in the field, I think a production car racer, Brad Gold, a flagger and spec racer, Ford Gen 3 racer here joining us as well. There's some guy in the chat, Brendan, called B. Tyler, saying, "Hi, Brendan." Yeah, I didn't think he'd ever. He's just a stalker. B-Spec racer Trenton Kramer in the field as well. I want to thank all of you for joining us here this weekend. Glad to hear that I'm not the only one with nothing better to do on a Friday afternoon than watch some racing.
Brad Gold in the chat. Well, Trenton Kramer in the chat says, "Hey, Brad, congrats on your recent SRF purchase." Does that mean Brad Gold is going to be car number 40 here in SRF Gen 3?
Maybe so.
Fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very cool to hear. As he had went to driver school at 7 Point Racer at the DC region, and I know had been racing cars from Doggone Racing, and great to hear that he's going to be doing this a little bit more often. I would assume if he's investing in a race car, that's going to probably be a little bit more often for him.
Great viewership so far on this Friday afternoon. 340 of you are joining us for a little bit of Q1 coverage. Sessions we wouldn't normally even cover.
That's right.
On SCCA's official YouTube
Yeah, they
channel
changed they modified the schedule, and here we are.
But please do share the links to tomorrow and Sunday's races with your friends. Tomorrow's Q2 and racing action should be excellent to follow along with. Those 25-minute sprint races tomorrow afternoon are going to be a lot of fun. And then literally at sunrise tomorrow morning, about 10 minutes after sunrise, as we change the clocks forward into summertime, or daylight savings time, I guess, we get to go Dawn Racing.
That's
right. Especially groups 1 and 2. Dawn SMX Racing, I think, is going to be a lot of fun. So,
I mean, more importantly, it's going to feel like 4 a.m. to Brian Bielanski.
And you know
cars
what?
go on course.
You know what?
Morning.
It's going to feel like about 5 a.m. when I get out here to set up cameras.
That is true. Yeah.
You know,
all right.
We're pretty close there.
Hey, at least I get to sleep in.
This is where, this is the part of the season, Greg, where the Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour starts to really hit its stride. Right? We had the pretty big gap between Sebring and Buttonwillow Raceway Park, about 6 or 7 weeks, where we all got to kind of take a deep breath, take stock of everything we've got. Now we go 2 weeks in between Buttonwillow and here, 2 more weeks before we go to NOLA Motorsports Park. 2 weeks after that, we go to VIR. 3 weeks after that, we're at Hallett. 2 weeks to Portland, a week to Mid-Ohio. I mean, literally from now to the end of the season, we've got one stretch of 3 weeks in between races in June. Everything else is a max of 2 weeks. And it's a quick turnaround for all of us in the Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour. I guess a bigger gap between VIR and Hallett this year because of Easter, the weekend prior to Hallett. But, really looking forward to getting into the meat of the 2025 Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour now.
All right, so we have just a touch under 3 minutes remaining on the clock. A number of our racers now starting to head back, and there we go, Brendan actually getting word from race control. Given the amount of time remaining on the clock, the checkered flag is now being displayed to signify the end of the session. By the time our racers completed an out lap, there just wouldn't be enough time for them. Real quick, and we'll go and run down the finishing order. I need to make a call to the grid for our next run group. They're just now giving the 5-minute warning. Attention in the paddock, tension in the paddock. Final call to the grid for Super Touring Light, Super Touring Under, GT3U, T3, and T4. The 5-minute warning has just been given on the grid. Race Group 4, STL, STU, GT3U, and T3 and T4. Please head to the grid. All right, quickly, let me run down the final qualifying order here in Spec Racer Ford Gen 3, as it has just disappeared on me. Give me 1 second, and I will pull it up again. My apologies, everybody. And it is at the top of the leaderboard. It is Stephen Long. Here we go. Pardon me, not Stephen Long. Peyton Long out of Conway, Arkansas, your fastest qualifier with a time of 1:34.054. Tyler Stevens, your second fastest driver, the Bixby, Oklahoma driver, only 1/1000th of a second off of provisional pole. Brian Schofield from Lakeland, Florida, 42/1000ths of a second back from there to 1:34.096. Then Clay Russell, fourth fastest. Jace Petty, Vaughn Mishko, John Green, Bobby Sack, Richard Baldwin, Matt Horst, rounding out your top 10 out of 39 drivers setting qualifying times this morning in Spec Race Ford. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be moving over to the touring cars with more action here from Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. We'll be back in a moment.
My name is Joshua Smith, Business Development Manager for Mazda Motorsports. We're happy to be supporting the SCCA and Mazda racers here. So our team support program offers a couple of tiers of support, parts support, technical support. All of this is done through our MazdaMotorsports.com parts store website. It's basically like signing up for an Amazon account. Simple information, prove that you're a racer. It gets you access to our 800 hotline that you can call and speak to one of our parts representatives 5 days a week.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour. I'm Gregg Ginsberg, along with Brendan Kazmarek. Next up is going back to the touring cars, Super Touring Light and Super Touring Under. GT3U, which next season is scheduled to be combined with STU. And then we've got Touring 3 and Touring 4. We have another driver giving us an in-car behind-the-scenes view of his qualifying session. This is Max Stallone from Wheels America Racing in his Mazda MX-5. And we'll make sure to keep up with Max here as our drivers are on their out lap currently. And a pretty strong field here this weekend in STL. We do have Mike Taylor, who finished on the podium at the National Championship runoffs. We also have in the field Salt Ferenczi, this being his, much like Mike Taylor, being his local track. Salt racing in an Acura Integra, much like Taylor. Also John Sewell in another Acura Integra, drivers that all have a ton of track time here. In Super Touring Under, we've got Jorge Nazario in his Mazda Miata, our STL national champion, at least today in qualifying. That is Jose Osiris Pena racing his STU Honda CRX. My guess is tomorrow morning's qualifying will likely see him in his STL championship winning Honda CRX for qualifying. We have David Fiorelli in a Ford Mustang as well, the Coppell, Texas driver, the 190 machine. That car is always incredibly quick. In GT3U, a little bit smaller field than I expected to see here. We've got Stacy Wilson and Jeff Durnell racing in the GT3U class. Is as I mentioned, going to be merged with STU next year for the 2026 season. And these racers are running in a slightly different spec than they had been running in GT3. Of course, they have to run now with DOT-approved tires versus the True Slicks. They also had to run, I think, 100 pounds heavier than the original GT3 specs, which is still a regional SCCA class for what are known as regional events. My understanding is come April 1st, for balanced performance, the GT3U cars will now be picking up an additional 100 pounds for their minimum weights. So they'll be running about 200 pounds heavier than the GT3 class cars, which are not eligible now for the Super Tour and for the runoffs this year. Then they will be racing. So we'll have to see here. And again, it's all in trying to even out the performance of those two classes, which are in many cases so disparate, where the STU cars are all production car based and have some aero modifications that you can make and some suspension pickup modifications that you can make, whereas the GT3U cars in most cases are tube frame cars with silhouette bodies. So big differences there. As we've got our racers now working their second flying laps, we'll pick up on some times here. Currently, your fastest STL driver, didn't mention he was in the field, Nick Leveroni in his Mazda Miatis out of Mendon, Massachusetts. We saw him just 2 weeks ago out at Buttonwillow. He's got a time in the books of 1:38.644, about 2 seconds clear of the rest of the field. Mike Taylor in his Just Track It Civic, Integra, second fastest at a 1:40.7. Chuck Hines, who's out of Cameron, North Carolina, third fastest. We've got some cars off coming out of turn 7. And on the left-hand side of your screen, that is Mike Taylor in the Acura Integra that I was just talking about, the Just Track It number 39 machine. He's out of Cumming, Georgia. This is his home track. And we'll try and get a little bit more information on what has happened there, as he is now pulled off. And he is pulled right up alongside that wall. Driver's left as far out of the action as he can. So we'll check back in just a moment. In STU, Jose Osiris Pena now with the fastest time of anybody out on track, and turns in a 1:35.148. That is currently 0.7 of a second clear of Jorge Nazario in a Mazda Miata. Richard Estacio's Lotus Exige, third fastest, at about 1.2 seconds back. And we are going to be black flagging the session. Once again, having all of our drivers return to the pit lane. There you go. You can see the black flag being displayed over at the entrance to turn number 5. And looking through the course, and I think we may have possibly another car off. And looking to see Jordan, we might want to take a look over by turn 10. Okay, so over at turn 10, I think we've got a car in the gravel trap there as well. And it's the number 79 car that is in the gravel trap. Unfortunately, we're having some issues with the camera over there right now. The 79 machine, let me see if I can get a number, or give you a name to go along with that number. That is Javier Sanchez in the number 79 Mazda Miata out of Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, and one of our STL drivers. So I think between having the STL car pulling trackside or driver's left coming out of turn 7 and the car in the gravel trap, that has precipitated this black flag. So let's do this, as we have only a single flying lap in the books for most of our racers. Just going to give you finish with this breakdown by class. We talked about Nick Lavaroni being your fastest driver in STL. Actually, Chuck Hines was able to leapfrog that outlap time of Mike Taylor. So Chuck Hines now your second fastest driver in STL. He's about a second back from Lavaroni. Derek Ketchy in a Honda Civic, your third fastest driver, only 0.03 of a second back from Hines, with John Sewell fourth. In STU, it's Jose Osiris Pena, as we mentioned, with a time of 1:35.148. Then Jorge Nazario, 0.7 back from there. Richard Estacio, third fastest in his Exige. In Touring 3, Nick Hammond in his Nissan 370Z. He is right outside of the home of the National Championship runoffs last year, this year, and next year. Road America, Nick Hammond with a 1:37.661. Juan Carlos LaRue in the number 42 Subaru BRZ, second fastest, 1.2 seconds back, with Andrea King in her BMW 330 Ci, your third fastest driver. And talk about a quick change for Andrea. She was just out in a Spec Racer Ford no more than 10 minutes ago. In GT3U, Jeff Durnell at a 141.1, Stacy Wilson at a 153 and change. And just want to quickly look at those times and compare STU and GT3U. Jose Osiris Pena at a 135.1, Durnell at a 141.1. So about 5 seconds there, but again, only like one flying lap in the books. Final class to talk about, Touring 4, Mark Cefalo with a 141.1, about half a second up on Ethan Baker, with Scotty B. White third fastest. All right, as we are about 10 minutes into this session and under black flag conditions, let's do this. Let's take a quick break. Thanks to our partners and sponsors, and when we come back, hopefully, nothing but green flag running left for our touring cars here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, where you're watching the 2025 Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour.
For more than 30 years, championship-winning drivers have demanded the Hawk Performance braking advantage. Now you can experience that same advanced technology on your daily car, truck, or CUV with Hawk Performance street products. With brake pads, rotors, and fluids that deliver smooth braking for muscle cars and tuners, Super Duty solutions for tow vehicles, custom-engineered motorsports friction designed specifically for road racing, autocross, drag, and everything in between, Hawk has all your braking needs covered. Visit hawkperformance.com to learn more. Hawk Performance, what's stopping you?
Tire Rack was established over 40 years ago by an SCCA member with a passion to find the right tires, wheels, and now brakes and suspension products for racers and enthusiasts on both street and track. As official tire retailer of the SCCA since 1995 and sponsor the Runoffs Pole Award, along with the National Solo Program, National Time Trials Program, and Track Night in America, Tire Rack is proud to support the SCCA and its members as they go have fun with cars.
For more than 100 years, Sunoco, SCCA's official fuel partner since 2001, has been fueling victories on and off the track, which is why Sunoco has trusted the fuel over 50 series of racing, driving, and winning, including the SCCA National Championship Runoffs, SCCA Pro Racing, Trans Am, and NASCAR. To find race gas near you, visit SunocoRaceFuels.com or call Sunoco at 800-RACE-GAS.
Hoosier Racing Tire is proud to be the presenting sponsor of this year's Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour. As the world's largest race tire manufacturer, Hoosier has been at the forefront of motorsports innovation for more than 65 years. From local tracks to the global stage, Hoosier is dedicated to delivering high-performance tires that meet the demands of champions. Whether you're a seasoned competitor or an aspiring racer, Hoosier tires are engineered to help you push the limits. For more information, visit us online at HoosierTire.com or visit us trackside, and remember to connect with us on social media.
If you like what you see today, become part of the action by joining the Sports Car Club of America. Whether you want to drive, flag, organize, officiate, have fun with cars, or meet 65,000 enthusiast friends, SCCA offers plenty to feed your motorsports obsession. Ask someone trackside about how to get involved or visit SCCA.com for more information.
It's the 2025 Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour, the premier amateur road racing series bringing together top SCCA road racers from across the country. The Hoosier Super Tour visits some of the greatest tracks in North America, showcasing each of our 23 car classes. From production to GT cars, prototypes to Formula cars, the Hoosier SCCA Super Tour packs a ton of wheel-to-wheel racing action into every event.
And welcome back to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, everybody. I'm Gregg Ginsberg, Brendan Kazmarek. Once again, Brendan is very good at prioritizing, and he's now prioritized getting some of our cameras back up and running. You can see here, as he now has that camera at the top of the Fox Factory Bridge back up and running, now showing that we've got that one car pulled out of the gravel trap over by turn 10A. He's going to be probably weaving to get some of the gravel out from underneath the car. He's going to join all the other racers on the pit lane here as we have just a little bit more than 10 minutes remaining in this 25-minute qualifying session. The last we saw, they were still trying to retrieve the Acura Integra of Mike Taylor from the back straight. But we should be able to get back underway here and hopefully get a couple more qualifying laps in. Austin in the chat saying squirrely squirrel being squirrely, and that's the Mike Taylor Acura Integra. Its nickname is Squirrel, and yes, it definitely being squirrely. So unfortunate there is it's now up on the rollback, and hopefully we'll be going back to qualifying here in just a moment. Jose Osiris Pena, currently your fastest STU driver. He's got about 0.7 of a second on the rest of the field, but we only have two laps in the books for them and for most classes. And Touring 4, Mark Cefalo, your fastest driver. He is in his Mazda RX-8 here this weekend with Ethan Barker in a Mazda Miata, second fastest at just about a half second back from Cefalo. In addition, we've got Nick Leveroni. He is your current leader in STL with a qualifying time of 1:37.965, almost exactly 1 second up on the NC Mazda Miata of Chuck Hines. And then in Touring 3, Nick Hammond in his Nissan 370Z, about 1.3 seconds clear of Juan Carlos LaRue with Andrea King, third fastest. And then finally in GT3U, just two drivers putting in times here this afternoon. Jeff Durnell in his third-gen Mazda RX-7 with a qualifying time of 1:41.186. Stacy Wilson in his Mazda RX-7. He's out of Inglewood, Tennessee, with a qualifying time of 1:53.829. And so you just saw there, they brought the Taylor machine back behind the wall over at turn number 7. And I believe that was the last piece that we need to clear up. And we're getting word now from race control that going to be sending the cars back out on track now. And the lead car in the line is actually pulled out of line for crew to take a look at the car. Now is our racers heading back out onto the track for another outlap. There we go. You can see we're coming off the pit lane. Welcome back, Mr. Kazmarek.
Welcome back, Greg. I've been here the whole time. You had your finger over the mute button.
I know.
Just hogging the airtime.
Sorry, some people just need to be silenced.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. No, I'm doing my best out there to reset some cameras. It just took twice as long as we thought it was going to.
Well, that's okay because we had another black flag, so it was perfect timing there.
Why does our timing tower
say finishing? I don't know.
Has that been that way the whole time?
I haven't looked. It just did it. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, it just flipped over. It had when we were under black flag. It was counting down.
I wonder if. Okay. All right. Theorize later, I guess.
Yeah, and I haven't seen any time added to the session. So
the time on the session is good. We're at 18 minutes, just under
7 minutes remaining. Yeah.
Yeah. Wonder if there was an inadvertent trip of the checkered flag somewhere over in timing. Yeah. Anyway, ignore that. Pay attention to scca.com/live and/or race monitor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We will tell you. We will tell you what you need to know and how much time is remaining. Real quick, Brendan, let me make a first call to the grid for our next group. Attention in the paddock. First call to the grid for race group number 5, Formula Atlantic, Formula Continental, Formula Enterprise 2, PNP2. Please head to the grid. Race group 5, Formula Atlantic and Continental, FE2, PNP2 classes. Please head to the grid. Your qualifying session is next. Hey, a couple other folks in the chat that we may know. We've got Andy Albin racing with us, a national champion SCCA autocrosser. Don Drennan, a national champion flagger, flag chief extraordinaire. I want to thank Don. Actually, I'm a little surprised that Don's on the chat here because I would think that he'd be out on a corner here this weekend. John Licatos, another great flagger from I think from up in Michigan way, although they may have placed themselves in another part of the country recently. And John Weisberg, who is great STU driver. Matter of fact, we had John in the booth here last year for the Super Tour.
Absolutely.
So maybe he hasn't been able to dig out of all the snow up in upstate New York, and hopefully we'll see him on a track here sometime soon.
Smoking down the back straightaway.
Yes.
I think that is Osiris Pena.
Pena in the STU CRX today. And yeah, he is pulled over to driver's left.
Yeah, the car looks all level there, so I don't think that was tire smoke. Do we hear engine noise as it goes past?
No.
Yeah. You can coast a long way down the straightaway here, even if you're not under power.
Yeah, I was going to say you can get down the hill. Getting back up the hill is going to be the challenge. And our corner stations, our flaggers, are covering that CRX with a white flag, which lets the other racers know that the car might be off power a little bit. Looks like he's on the throttle there, at least to get through the S's.
Yeah, it does stay to the left under the Fox Factory Bridge and into the pit lane.
That was Brendan. That was my New York accent.
Sure. On the provisional pole for that number 199, still 7. Let's call it 3/4 of a second in hand over Jorge Nazario on the number 165.
Yeah. Although Jeff Durnell has just reset fast lap of the session in his GT3U Mazda RX-7 at a 1:33.613. Stacy Wilson finding some time here now as his equipment's getting up to temp. Still about 2 seconds off of the Durnell time. Turns in a 1:35.562. But that is closing down. And, as we talked a couple weeks ago, or Brian Bielanski talked a couple weeks ago to Michael Lewis, and the challenges that these GT3U racers are going through in order to do the test and tune and try and work with the SCCA to get these cars close performance-wise to the STU cars. It's been so difficult, and I don't know if you heard it, Brendan. It was just announced in the latest Fast Track that the GT3U cars will be adding another 100 pounds to their minimum weight starting April 1st.
That was pre-Button Willow that was announced. Is
Yeah,
that right?
Yeah.
So we did talk about that.
That's right. We did. Yeah, that's
I
right.
wasn't
We did
sure if
do
that
that.
had taken effect. If that had taken effect or not.
Actually, you know what? It was supposed. Now that I think about it, it was supposed to take effect. I thought March 1st.
Okay.
So technically, maybe it's already the lead rewards weight they're already added.
You know, this kind of harkens back to some of the Grand Am days in the GT class. There in particular, you had NASCAR essentially trying to performance balance the Prep 2 cars, which were two-frame GT cars with bodywork hung over them, with whatever engine you thought you could throw at it, with proper, unibody cars.
It's like the exact same situation.
And that's kind of my point here. Is even Grand Am had moments where the Prep 2 cars were just substantially quicker than the street converted race cars.
Right.
I mean, two frames are always going to be a more efficient way to build a car than a shell. So I don't envy the task at hand here for the board. It's a tricky one. In the end, it should give us some pretty exciting racing once it's gotten right, and that is the reason for the GT3U moniker this season.
Right, exactly.
Is to give us all that year to figure it out, to understand where the performance opportunities are for each type of car, and to have it right for 2026. In the meantime, I mean, Jeff Darnell out of Cumming, Georgia, has a lot of laps here, so you'd expect some advantage there naturally anyway. But that GT3U car, maybe not 1.4 seconds quicker than David Fiorelli, Jorge Nazario, Osiris Pena. I mean, that's a pretty stout stack of drivers there.
Yeah, and we actually saw this in Button Willow also as we were comparing Rylan Hazelton's S2000 to Michael Lewis. Of course, the Michael Lewis RX-7 was having some mechanical issues throughout the weekend, so kind of hard to judge. But those GT3U cars, probably the biggest thing besides throwing weight on them is that the tire compounds are incredibly different that they have to run now, as they have to run the DOT tires. And so, it's testing and tuning and suspension setup changes. Brent.
No, you're good. I just wanted to give a couple of shouts in the chat here. Austin is loving the in-car. Is that provided by the coverage crew, or does the driver team need to take care of that? We do not take care of that here at DriversEye Live. I know that doesn't make sense quite so much with our name, but all of these onboards are provided by drivers and or teams. If that's something you're interested in, you can send an email to supertourannouncers@gmail.com, and they'll get you in touch with myself at DriversEye Live or one of our folks.
Indeed.
To give you some options as to how you can get your in-car included in our Hoosier Super Tour live streaming. Austin also mentions 250 pounds of ballast is a lot to mount in some of these cars.
Yeah.
And that is a good point, right?
Sure.
Even 250 pounds of lead or whatever your weight is going to be doesn't necessarily just add 250 pounds to the car, because you can mount that in some pretty advantageous places that maybe the STU cars don't have the opportunity to change their center of gravity and their rotation point. So there is an additional kind of trick to understanding how all of these numbers thrown into a spreadsheet actually operate in practice. Go ahead, Greg.
Attention in the paddock, with the driver of the number 58 Spec Racer Ford Gen 3. Please see the race director in impound. Driver of the number 58 Spec Racer Ford Gen 3, please see the race director in impound. Also, Formula Atlantic, Formula Continental, FE2, Prototype, and Prototype 2 classes, please head to the grid. Your qualifying session is next. Race group number 5, FA, FC, FE2, P, and P2 racers, please head to the grid.
If we can add a name to that, Greg, the driver we're looking for is Jackson Deal.
The
number 58 Spec Racer Ford Gen 3. Now that I've pulled timing down to look up the name, we can go back and check our timer on the clock here. Upper left-hand corner of the screen would normally have it.
Well, I think we're right at
the checkered flag.
And the checkered flag now, Brendan, right as we said it, now being shown to our racers. So these last flying laps will count. And as opposed to what we saw earlier in the GT classes, it looks like a lot of our racers here with those DOT tires setting their fastest lap times towards the end of the session here, as Nick Leveroni in STL sets a time of 1:37.541. That is 15 one-thousandths of a second up on John Sewell in his Acura Integra. Derek Ketchy, third fastest, about 7/10 back from there. Chuck Hines, who had been running second fastest in class through the majority of the session, he now drops to fourth fastest in the session, with a Gonzalo Aponte fifth fastest. In STU, Jorge Nazario, your provisional pole sitter after one qualifying session at a time of 1:34.846. That's 13 hundredths up on Richard Estacio. David Fiorelli, only 25 one-thousandths of a second back from Estacio, third fastest, with Osiris Pena fourth fastest, but obviously having some mechanical issues there that causes early retirement from the session. In Touring 3, Nick Hammond, your fastest driver, with a qualifying time of 1:36.302, with Juan Carlos LaRue, about 65 hundredths of a second back from there. Tristan Smith in his Nissan 350Z, third fastest at a 1:41.681. Andre King, fourth fastest. In GT3U, Jeff Durnell with a 1:33.466, 1.8 seconds clear of Stacy Wilson. And then in Touring 4, Mark Cefalo. And last week, remember, Cefalo had a pretty adventurous weekend here last year for the Super Tour. Great fights with Kevin. It's going to come to me, and it will eventually. Well,
not to me.
Yeah, it'll come to me. And
I don't remember how it went, just how it ended.
Yeah, we know how it ended exactly. And I'll remember the other person in just a moment here. But Mark Cefalo, 0.3 of a second up on Ethan Barker, with Scotty B. White another second back from there.
Greg, can you just give me some tones real quick?
Yes, absolutely, I can.
Attention in the paddock. Would driver of the 117 SRF Gen 3, Jace Petty, please report to the race director at impound. Jace Petty, driver of the number 117 SRF Gen 3, to the race director in impound.
And it was Kevin Fryer.
There we go.
Was the great battle, or big battle there last year going into turn 10. All right, we've just gotten word that the 3-minute warning has been given on the grid for our next group. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back here in just a few moments with more qualifying action from Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta.
We're not supposed to be out here. Outside expectations. Built for the outdoors. With the capability to climb this high, we're not supposed to be out here. Which is exactly why we are. The off-road ready Mazda CX-50. We're looking for outsiders. We're not supposed to be out here. Outside expectations. Built for the outdoors. With the capability to climb this high, we're not supposed to be out here. Which is exactly why we are. The off-road ready Mazda CX-50. We're looking for outsiders.
Welcome back, everybody, to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. It is day one of action from the raceway. I'm Gregg Ginsberg, along with Brendan Kazmarek on track right now. Our open wheel and prototype racers as they are just completing their out laps. And before we get into the action here with this group, Brendan, I want to make a quick call. Attention in the paddock with Randy Johnson, driver of the number 1 Touring 3 car, and Javier Sanchez, driver of the number 79 STL car. Please see Kathy Barnes over by Tech, our race director over by Tech. Again, Touring 3 car number 1, Randy Johnson. Super Touring Light car number 79, Javier Sanchez. Please see the race director in Tech. Also, Jace Petty, driver of the number 117 Spec Racer Ford. If you haven't already headed to see the race director in Tech, if you would please do so as well. All right, so as our drivers now working their first flying laps, we have a nice little field here in Formula Atlantic. We've got John McAleer, Nathan Bird, Charles Livingston, Stephen LaManna in FE2, as we many times do here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. Have a nice field. We've got Von Mishko, who we saw a little bit earlier in his Spec Racer Ford. Frank Futrell, former national champion in the number 97 machine, who goes to the top of the overall leaderboard here very quickly at a 124.682. We got Paul Schneider out of Charlotte, North Carolina, longtime FE2 racer, Eric Wisniewski, Whitney Strickland as well. Whitney coming out of the Spec Racer Ford camp. He's out of League City, Texas. In Formula Continental, we've got 2 drivers. We have Eric Presby and Carter Sheets as well. And in the prototypes, Gary Crook, William Niemeyer, and Wade Richardson, all in store chassis.
This is a sort of combined group, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
Based on last season's entries, I'd anticipated a few more Formula Continentals as well. Obviously, they run in the F2000 Championship Series over in FRP. Such was the entry this weekend that we've combined all our open wheel cars, as is quite right, and we get a little mix of everything. Some new look to these classes this year.
Yeah,
I already talked about it a little bit at Sebring and back at Buttonwillow, but it's a combined prototype spec at the top of the field. P2 is there as an option if drivers would like to run their cars in the current P2 or last year's P2 spec.
Exactly.
But it's not a runoffs eligible class. It's just a carryover in the interest of providing drivers an opportunity to race their cars, given the relatively complicated pathway towards getting them up to prototype speed, P speed, let's say.
So Brendan, I got a little note from Frank Futrell, who's on track right now, and currently our fastest FE2 racer. He's a 3-time national champion, once in Formula Mazda, twice in FE2. And as we were talking about all the large contingent of volunteers that we have here at the track to help put on any SCCA event. We asked all of our drivers what they do as far as volunteering, if they have any role volunteering in the SCCA. And a lot of times that's, if you work a corner, what have you, or if you're, work in management and administration of local regions. And Franklin says he likes loitering with weird turn workers at the end of the day. So I guess we'll see him at the party afterwards here at the chalet.
For some of us, Greg, that was our way into the SCCA.
That is true.
Many a nights for me spent at the worker campground down at Sebring International Raceway, listening to the stories carry on till midnight, 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. And I want to be clear, they were the same stories every time. Every time.
Yes.
But it was endearing in its own way.
It's like you hear about old Wisehale's fishing stories. Racing stories are exactly the same, although they change slightly every single year to
they get more grandiose and more chaotic.
Yes,
absolutely.
Exactly.
Outlaps completed now, putting in representative times with just over 6 minutes taken off of the clock. John McAleer, your pole sitter, overall at the moment, 139.134. Ought to be the quickest cars of the weekend. I think those Formula Atlantics, in particular that Swift 016 chassis, with almost 3 seconds in hand over Nathan Bird in the first of the alternative FA spec cars. These are old, let's say old Formula B, F1000. We've seen kind of a resurgence in their participation in SCCA over the last couple of years. Yeah. They've been a little bit more equalized to the old FA chassis. The F1000 championship, not seeing the participation maybe it used to.
Right.
And those cars kind of finding a home here. Unfortunately, I think with the long back straightaway here,
they hurt a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, those FA cars make it a good bit more power. The F1000 a little bit quicker through the corners, but you get so much downforce off the Swifts, especially through the S's there, through turn 10.
It's not as big an advantage as at this race course.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. In FE2, it is still for Trell with Schneider and then Mishko. Eric Cruz, currently running 6th fastest, just set his fastest lap of the session. Cruz comes to us. He's the American Road Race Champions winner in FE2. Actually, Formula Enterprise and FE2 2005, 2019, 2023. And the American Road Race Champions event here that is held by the Atlanta region each fall, right around the end of October, beginning of November here. So we'll see if Eric can find a little bit more speed. Here, he's also finished 4th at the 2013 National Championship runoffs, and I believe that was in the original FE spec machine.
These FE2 spec cars, I think I'd like to have a go in someday. I'm not sure I would personally fit.
I know I wouldn't.
I think I've got a little bit too much bulk to be comfortable in there. A little bit more padding in the case something goes wrong, but I think they just look like a lot of fun. They look like what F4 maybe should be.
Yeah.
F4 makes a lot of noise, and they go kind of quickly, and then it kind of makes some downforce. But in all cases, I think you're spending more money than maybe you need to be to go entry-level open-wheel racing. These FE2 cars just seemed right-sized and right-priced to provide that entry-level opportunity. And if we think back to, oh, Lord, it's 15 years ago now.
Yeah.
The 2010 season, these were championship-level cars in the USF 2000
car. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a national-level touring series to go with the IndyCar ladder. So changed a little bit, but these FE2 cars still work really, really well in that ladder, let's say, system for open wheel cars.
All right, thought we had a car that might have been off pace a little bit, coming out of 6, going into 7, simply letting a faster chassis by. And as we take a look in, let's see, fastest car overall, it is the Atlantic of John McAleer. He's got a time of 1:18.472. In the books, that is over 3.5 seconds clear right now of the rest of the Atlantic field. We had seen McAleer, some amazing fights here in the prototype, what was at the time P1 between John McAleer and also I think Todd Vanacore at points. And so McAleer racing this Swift 016, which we saw him put a lot of time in last season as well, and obviously looking very comfortable with it. And yeah, as we're seeing now, quite an advantage for that Swift chassis over some of the JDR machines behind, with Bird currently your second fastest driver, again about 3.5 seconds back. In the prototype class, Gary Crook in his store, he's out of Pensacola, currently 3.7 seconds up on William Niemeyer, with Wade Richardson another over 3.5 seconds back from there. In FE2, things are a lot closer. We've got 1.8 seconds separating our top 4 drivers. It's Futrell, Schneider, Mishko, and Eric Wisniewski. Wisniewski out of Mason, Michigan. And then in Continental, again, 2 drivers, Eric Presby with a 1:29.5, currently 4 seconds up on Carter Sheets.
Nathan Bird into the pit lane here over our left shoulder, Greg, in the JDR F1000 chassis. Engine cover off the back.
And that was the car, actually, that we saw coming at a slightly slower pace through out at 6 and 7 a little while ago.
Yeah, look, I mean, what we said earlier was correct about the Formula Atlantic cars. I think having the advantage here in general over the F1000 cars. However, if you told me that the motorcycle, the 1000cc engine in the back of this JDR chassis was a little down on power from where it ought to be, I think I'd probably believe
it. Yeah.
Yeah, 3.6 seconds is a lot for a class that, well, A, for a class that is pretty finely balanced around two different types of cars, and B, for somebody who's got as much experience in an F1000 as Nathan Bird has got. This is, I think, the fourth season for Nathan running these cars.
Yes.
He's got plenty of experience in other types of open-wheel cars as well. And you would think has his head wrapped pretty well around how to make these cars go quickly. I think maybe there's some work to be done by that Arrive Drive Motorsports crew to make that car a little bit closer to where it ought to be.
All right, and we've got two of the three prototype stores on the pit lane currently, and I believe that is the 9 and the 99 of Gary Crook and Bill Niemeyer, with Wade Richardson still out and circulating here. So we'll see if they head back behind the wall, as we're just about almost exactly halfway through this 25-minute session, Brendan. So let me make a call to the grid and we'll take a quick break. Attention in the paddock. First call to the grid for race group 6, E production, F production, H production, and B-Spec racers. Please start heading to the grid. E production, F production, H production, and B-Spec racers, please head to the grid. And now I know why Jason Stein is in the chat. Everybody, let's take a quick break. We'll be back here in just a few moments. We'll take you all the way to the checkered flag here from Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta.
Hoosier Racing Tire is proud to be the presenting sponsor of this year's Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour. As the world's largest race tire manufacturer, Hoosier has been at the forefront of motorsports innovation for more than 65 years. From local tracks to the global stage, Hoosier is dedicated to delivering high-performance tires that meet the demands of champions. Whether you're a seasoned competitor or an aspiring racer, Hoosier tires are engineered to help you push the limits. For more information, visit us online at HoosierTire.com or visit us trackside, and remember to connect with us on social media.
Maza Vineyards is the exclusive sparkling wine for podium celebrations at the Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour, SCCA Runoffs, and Tire Rack SCCA Pro Solo. Celebrate your racing weekend with Maza Vineyards and learn more at enjoymaza.com.
Tire Rack was established over 40 years ago by an SCCA member with a passion to find the right tires, wheels, and now brakes and suspension products for racers and enthusiasts on both street and track. As official tire retailer of SCCA since 1995 and sponsor of the Runoffs Pole Award, along with the National Solo Program, National Time Trial Program, and Track Night in America, Tire Rack is proud to support the SCCA and its members as they go have fun with cars.
Ready for a new race trailer? Bravo Trailers is the exclusive partner of the SCCA. Owned by longtime SCCA racers, Bravo Trailers work better, load easier, and tow better because they build them with the racers in mind. Visit bravotrailers.com to see your new trailer in aluminum or steel.
Summit Racing is a proud partner of the SCCA and its nearly 70,000 members. Get more bang for your buck at summitracing.com. Choose from millions of in-stock parts from over 1,500 name brands. Parts for racing, street performance, trucks, plus tools, accessories, and more. Shop anytime, anywhere with the Summit Racing app.
Did you know SCCA members can save $20 on every track night they sign up for? That's right. Track Night America, driven by Tire Rack, now hosting 150 events at more than 30 tracks across the country, is the easiest and most affordable way to get you and your friends on track in street cars all year long. Visit tracknightinamerica.com to learn more and get yourself on track.
Hagerty is the official and exclusive insurance partner for SCCA. Hagerty provides affordable off-track insurance protection for motorsports vehicles while in the paddock, in transit, in storage, and at the shop. They provide guaranteed value coverage and even have protection for your trailers. SCCA members can save 5% on insurance through Hagerty. Hagerty, let's drive together. Learn more at Hagerty.com.
Back, everybody. Welcome back, everybody. It is Gregg Ginsberg. It is Brendan Kazmarek. It is the Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta and the 2025 Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour. Our open wheel and prototypes with our fastest driver currently on track being John McAleer in his Formula Atlantic Swift. As we were away at break, a couple drivers having some issues. We had Roy Hillenberg in the number 111 Formula Enterprise 2 car. He's out of Friendswood, Texas, have some issues over at turn 7. He's gotten that car back underway. And we do have, I believe, Well, we'll check. Is this the 30? When we're displaying a black flag now, I think we might have the 33 car off over near turn 7. Jordan, if we can go back to 7. And there he is, right at the apex of turn 7.
Is that Charles Livingston in the 33?
Yep, it is. That is the 33 car. That is the Formula Atlantic JDR of Livingston, as you said.
Pretty good lap from Livingston. I've been watching his lap times. 3rd place in FA at the moment. A pretty steady progression down into the low to mid 123s. Unfortunately, the closer you get to that limit, the ultimate limit of the car and driver ability, it does leave you the opportunity. Yeah, it does leave you the opportunity to get it wrong, and it looks like maybe he's just perched himself up on top of that apex curb at turn 7.
And that curbing is pretty tall there.
Especially in an open wheel car.
Exactly, yeah. Definitely has the ability to go and spin the car around like that. So again, we are under black flag conditions with about 7.5 minutes now remaining in the qualifying session. That means all of our racers will come to the pit lane as our emergency services teams will try to get Mr. Livingston righted, and there they are as if on cue. To try and get that done. So hopefully we'll have enough time to send our racers back out for a couple more qualifying laps. It is currently in the prototype class. Gary Crook, your fastest driver. He's got over 3.5 seconds on the rest of the P field. Niemeyer 2nd, Richardson 3rd fastest. And about 3.7 seconds separating each one of our 3 racers in the class. In Formula Atlantic, John McAleer. And again, he's your fastest racer overall. Nathan Bird about 3.6 seconds back. And then Charles Livingston, who we see over there, 1.2 seconds back. Steve Lamana, 4th fastest, in the class. In FE2, it is Frank Futrell. And Futrell had just reset his personal best lap on the prior lap. He's got a 1:23.136 in the books. That puts him about a half second up on Paul Schneider, with Von Mischko 3rd fastest, another 3/4 of a second back from Schneider. Eric Wisniewski 4th, Whitney Strickland 5th, and then in Formula Continental, 4.5 seconds at the moment separating Eric Presby and Carter Sheets. And again, our racers, this is the first qualifying session of the weekend. Today, all qualifying. When we come back with our second day of action from Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, starting tomorrow morning at just about 8:05 a.m. We will conclude qualifying with a second session for each of our 7 race groups, and then we will go racing starting at 11 a.m. tomorrow, or approximately 11 a.m. Not time certain there, but it'll be for each of our 7 groups, a 25-minute timed sprint race, and that's will go all through the late morning and all afternoon with those races, and then finally we'll wrap up action here from the raceway on Sunday, starting at 8 a.m. with 19-lap or 35-minute feature races for each of our 7 race groups.
Just a quick look at the chat here, Greg, while we're stopped. Tim Adolphson, counting the sleeps to the Portland Super Tour.
Yes.
One of my favorite events of the year. I'd love to see more entries out there.
So would I.
If we could get 150-plus cars up to the Pacific Northwest, I think it would be an even better event than it already is. Unfortunately, it does back up to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course event this year, as it did last year. So even in the middle part of the country, it's a long haul if you have any plans to make it out to Mid-O. Maybe second year back for Mid-O, it encourages more people to go west rather than east. Yeah, we'll see there. But anyway, I'm looking forward to going back to PIR this year after missing out last year.
Yeah.
Ben Tyler in the chat says he does work when it's not Black Flag All, which is fair enough. I think maybe if we could keep Ben from working, we'd keep a few more cars intact just in general.
Or at least not on fire.
A few more extinguisher bottles maybe would stay fully loaded.
Yeah, yes.
So, Ben, if you want to stay here for a while, please feel free.
Take your time. Hang out here.
Yeah. But yeah, good participation this afternoon from everybody. Appreciate your company, as I always do with our DriversEye Live broadcast. Really is an opportunity to share all the great things about motor racing before we actually have the motor racing tomorrow and Sunday.
Attention in the paddock, second call to the grid for race group number 6, E Production, F Production, H Production, and B-Spec. Please head to the grid. Race Group 6, E Production, F Production, H Production, and B-Spec racers. Please head to the grid. Your qualifying session is next. And so, Brendan, as we're getting that car back onto the track surface and hopefully coming down now into turn 10, hopefully where we could get underway for a lap or two of qualifying here, the majority of our racers have taken their cars back behind the wall and back to the paddock. I see 2 cars currently, and it looks like both Atlantics lined up there to head out and perhaps get a little bit more qualifying action here.
Yeah, so the first car there is the Nathan Bird car. In addition to them having the engine cover off, I also saw they took a couple of turns of rear wing out of that number 39, which is kind of what we were talking about earlier. You think at a place like Road Atlanta, those F1000s lose so much on the straightaway compared to the Formula Atlantic spec FA cars. You trim the car out a little bit, try and hustle it through turn 1, hold on to it as best you can, and then let it rip down the back straightaway. I don't know that car is going to have enough. I don't think a couple of turns of rear wing is 3.6 seconds to go get after John McAleer and try and set the pole. But anyway, optimizing the setup may not be a bad thing. Also, if you're going to do something like that, you maybe don't want to send it out first thing tomorrow morning on cold tires to see how your recently trimmed out rear wing is going to handle.
Yeah, it might not be the best course of action if you want to keep the rear end underneath you.
Go get a feel for it and see if any additional changes need to be made overnight. Maybe add some rear camber into the car or some tow, and send the car back out tomorrow where maybe in cooler conditions you have a little bit more to get after that 68 of McAleer with.
All right, so from the looks of it here, Brendan, is we've got just a little bit under 2 minutes remaining as some of these cars now are making their way down the back straight. There should be, given that most of them are running in the at least for the Atlantics in the 122, 123 range, and even the Formula One Prize 2 cars in the 123, 124 range, there might...
It's going to be close.
Yeah, might be an opportunity for 2 laps here, possibly.
Yeah, remember...
At least for the ones that are just now crossing the line.
Just remember, our timer in the upper left is unofficial.
Right.
As are most display clocks here. The SCCA.com /live timer should be correct, but it was right around 1:20 based on what I saw on Race Monitor as to whether or not Nathan Bird was going to be able to do this lap and one more, or if he's going to see the checkered next time around. If he can do a 120, it's probably there for him.
Right.
But again, that's a 120 on a recently changed setup on cold tires.
On cold tires, and that's, again, 3 seconds faster than he's run all session.
Exactly. So let's wait and see here. Again, I don't know that there's 3.5 seconds in a setup change, but if Nathan can hustle his way around this time, build up a little bit more pressure in the tires, he might get that one magic flyer at the end, which would allow him to push onwards and try and steal that provisional pole away from John McAleer.
All right, we also have Eric Wisniewski and Von Mischko out in their FE2 cars. Mischko currently your 3rd fastest driver. He's about 3/4 of a second back from Paul Schneider, who's running 2nd. Wisniewski is another 4,500ths back from Mischko, again currently running 4th in class. We also have the 39 car of Nathan Bird. Well, we were talking about Bird in the 39 JDR, and then also the 49 car is out on track. That is Whitney Strickland, who's currently running 5th in FE2.
I think Nathan made it through, Greg.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think he should be good to go, because we've got, about 20, I'm still waiting. They have not, we're over the 25-minute mark, but I'm not seeing a checkered flag here yet.
Clerk of the course, Joel Harleman, who's got his finger on the pulse of things, says we're going to give each driver 2 flying laps. So Nathan Bird is going to be your target. He got his 1. He's on his second now, and then they'll throw the checkered on this session. One of the flexibilities we get with this followed by schedule, in addition to a slightly uncertain start time for some of our activity, is the ability to do some things like this, right? And where you have a lengthy stoppage that takes up close to half the session, you have the chance to say, okay, we're running appropriately on schedule. Let's give everybody a fair shot at here at a few extra laps, rather than going out and wasting gas, wasting the good part of your tire life. Be kind of fair and equitable to everybody. I like that.
I do as well. So Nathan Bird our only driver on that flying lap out to set a new personal best, 121. Turned in a 121.667 as he just now completes his second flying lap, and the checkered flag comes out for all following cars. He improved once again to a 121.116. That's still 2.6 seconds off of McAleer's time, but it also opens up that gap a little bit more to Charles Livingston, as we do still have a couple of our drivers on track. Whitney Strickland, running 5th fastest in FE2, resets his personal best, turns in a 125.213, but that is not enough to move up. And here we go, Brendan. Eric Wisniewski just crossed the stripe. He turned in a 124.335. That was enough momentarily to move up to 3rd fastest in FE2. Von Mischko comes back and puts down a 123.954. So goes and retakes 3rd fastest in FE2, going almost 4/10 of a second faster than Wisniewski on that final lap. So Mischko found quite a bit of time there, picked up just about a half a second between his second to last lap and his final lap.
Yeah, knowing that we were going to get 2 flying laps here, I wonder if everybody just took the opportunity to find a little bit of clear track.
Yeah.
Say, okay, this is going to be our last opportunity to do this for the session. Let's get some clear air on the nose, over the rear wing, find some space, and go get after it. Unfortunately, when you do that, everybody kind of has the same opportunity. Not being in fear of missing the checkered. And so Wisniewski improved. Mischko doing exactly the same thing.
Exactly.
10 seconds further back, and obviously was able to jump back into 3rd place.
Attention in the paddock, final call to the grid for race group 6, B-Spec, E production, F production, and H production. Race group number 6, this is your final call to the grid. All right, so if we go and recap things, your fastest driver on track in this session was John McAleer in his Formula Atlantic Swift, turned in a 118.472. That was over 2.5 seconds clear of Nathan Bird, your second fastest Atlantic driver, with Charles Livingston 3rd fastest. In FE2, Franklin Futrell, your fastest driver, with a qualifying time of 123.13, 58 hundredths of a second clear of Paul Schneider. Von Mischko, 3rd fastest. In Formula Continental, Eric Presby with a time of 128.970, your fastest driver, 3.5 seconds clear of Carter Sheets. And then finally, in the prototype class, Gary Crook, your fastest driver in his store WF1 with a time of 127.348, 3.7 seconds clear of William Niemeyer, with Wade Richardson 3rd fastest. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back here in just a few moments with some small bore action from Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. You're watching the 2025 Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour.
Mazda's been very supportive of racers within the SCCA and all the other grassroots organizations for many, many years. Really, their support for racing and our type of racing is unmatched from any other manufacturer. They've been a great partner for many, many years.
Mazda, hands down, is the best company to work with for sports car racing. Factory support is second to none. It just feels right. You feel connected.
Picture your perfect garage. How many cars are in there? Great, great. Now picture reality. How many cars can you actually have? Me too. With SCCA Club Spec, one car becomes your daily, your track car, your autocross car, even your time trials car. S197 Mustang if you like V8s and torque, NC Miata if you like compact and agile. SCCA Club Spec, spirited dailies, competitive race cars. Learn more at scca.com.
Welcome back to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. It's the 2025 Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour. I'm Gregg Ginsberg along with Brendan Kazmarek. And Brendan, I mean, talk about dichotomies here as we move from open wheel racing to our production-based cars. I guess we'd call it the traditional SCCA prototype, the traditional prototype SCCA car, open wheel roadsters and similar type machines.
I'm gonna leave you hanging on.
I know you were.
I will say that when I think of the SCCA, these are the types of cars I think.
Things like Bug-Eye Sprites.
Exactly.
Open wheel, not open.
I want to be
wheel,
clear.
Open top.
That's not in any way
mid-60s racers. No. And I was going to say we have pretty much every remaining X19 in America racing here this weekend.
I was going to say that I think this is the X19 convention.
Yes.
Here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. 5 of them? 4 of them.
I think 4 of them this weekend.
Down in the H-Prod field. Yeah.
We've got father and son team racing here this weekend of Braden Connolly and Matt Brannon racing the number 22 and the number 12. I know we've got Russ McBride this weekend. He's in the green number 14 machine this weekend. And we'll have to pick up that 4th machine and get the color on it for you here. But drivers just now completing their out laps and starting their first flying laps. Again, these are 25-minute qualifying sessions. We'll start to bring you the times here coming east. This is the first event of the season for our defending H Production National Champion, Jesse Prather, in his Mazda 2. And we've got, coming from middle of the country, Chuck Mathis in the number 54 machine. And I think that might be a new chassis for Chuck Mathis. And I'm sure Andy Albin will probably tell me in the chat if that is the case. Chris Albin, her father, in the number 3, the bright yellow Volkswagen Golf, out here on track as well. I ran into Frank Schwartz in the paddock a little bit earlier. Schwartz, of course, longtime B-Spec, not just B-Spec racer, but Mini Cooper racer, racing this weekend in H Production. And don't, obviously, at least not today, qualifying in B-Spec, but good to see him out here. Vesa Silgren, who is our 2019 national champion in H Production in the number 60, the red Honda CRX, out here in the field as well. And we have another, besides Jesse Prather, we've got another many-time national champion in the field in H-Prod here this weekend. Brendan, a 13-14 car H Production field, Steve Sargis out of Hartford, Wisconsin, who, of course, behind that Triumph Spitfire of his has picked up many a national championship.
Take your word for it, Greg.
Thank you.
Haven't been around quite that long.
Mason Workman, who is our defending F Production National Championship out of Canal, Winchester, Ohio, in his Mazda Miata, with the fastest lap, with the 1 lap in the books, turning in a 140.320. That's 2.2 seconds up on Steven Simons. Our 2023 national champion, Ken Kennard, in his Acura Integra, 3rd fastest in the class. Chris Bovis, who we saw at Sebring earlier this year in what was a GT Light machine. And again, Bovis, a multi-time national champion in his Honda CRX. We talked about GT3U and STU merging next year. Well, it didn't necessarily have the long runway for the merger of F Production and GT Light this year, as the GT Light cars have moved over to F Production, have had to lose the rear wing that they ran with last year, and some other changes as well. But so far has looked like a pretty seamless integration.
Yeah, I think Sebring was its long runway, Greg.
Yeah. Very, very nice. 3 3¾ miles of concrete runway, as a matter of fact. In E-Production, our defending national champion, Tyler Ladd, in the number 151 BMW Z3. Well, he was, for a lap, your fastest racer with a time of 1:39.304. But now Peter Norton, out of Pelham, North Carolina, in his Caterham 7, turns in a lap that's 1.3 seconds faster. The bogey time now 137.993. He's your fastest driver on track. And finally, in B-Spec, and we'll be checking in. And here's, we were talking about an SMX and Spec Racer Forward, how close the lap times were. When we move over to the touring cars, B-Spec, you're going to see just as close. Gail Corley, your early leader, with a 153.531, 28/1000ths of a second up on Chris Taylor, both of them racing Mazda 2s. Blair Deffenbaugh in his Honda Fit, 1300ths of a second back from there, with Stuart Black, who we see perpetually up towards the front of the field, and his Chevy Sonic only 33/1000ths of a second back from Deffenbaugh. Rice Robinson out of Wilson, Wyoming. We've got Rice and John Robinson, and I don't remember seeing them on a Super Tour event previously, both in Mazda 2s. They are running currently 6th and 7th, as Josh Schmidt from Kannapolis, North Carolina, now in his Chevy Sonic, goes to the top of the leaderboard with a 151.776.
And just to put eyes quickly on that E-production field, Greg, as you went through the rundown there. Peter Norton in the number 50 Caterham 7 ahead of Tyler Ladd in the 151 BMW Z3. We kind of talked about this differential between lightweight, low power with the FA cars,
right?
The F1000s versus the Formula Atlantics. Kind of a similar dynamic here, except you're not limited by VMAX and downforce the way you are in those cars.
Right.
Here, where it's a lot more about mechanical grip and the ability to change direction, corner quickly, brake quickly, all of those things, I think the Caterham has a little bit of an advantage being lighter weight.
Yeah, certainly. But it has challenges aero-wise when you get onto the very long back straight here at Road America, where you've got the big bicycle fenders or motorcycle fenders out there, you've got all four wheels practically exposed from the edge of the body.
Right. What you don't have, though, is the same discrepancy in VMAX that you do with the open wheel cars, right?
Right.
You're hitting the limiter halfway down from 8 to 9 in an F1000. Here, you're going to continue accelerating for the most part in both of those E-Prod spec cars.
Sure.
But the lightweight of the Caterham, even with the lower power, is going to make you much, much quicker at turn 1. You're going to be much, much shorter in the braking zone at turn 10, maybe quicker down here at turn 12 as well. And I think that's helping Peter Norton, at least for now, by now almost 7/10ths of a second to the provisionally production pole.
Yeah, and even a corner when you think about turn 7, where you have to be, which again is that corner that is so crucially important because it brings you onto that long back straight, where in that Caterham, Peter Norton is literally sitting right over the rear axle. I mean, that as far as weight distribution, where it has the ability to dig out of corners much, much better than a car, than some of the front wheel drive cars, certainly, but even the rear wheel drive cars where the engine is in the front. And the driver is more midship or even ahead of the center line of the car.
I've never driven one of them, but when you drive them on a sim racing platform, the weight transfer there is really, really noticeable.
It is.
Right? So you kind of drive the thing like a sprint car. You come on the power, you settle the thing on the rear axle,
right,
and just haul it off the corner. He's actually pulled into the pit lane here. I look over my left shoulder, that yellow Caterham down into the 137s. If he thinks that's enough here.
Yep. So we've got two of our E-production racers on the pit lane. We've got Peter Norton in his Caterham. We also have John Balcom in the number 86 Alfa Romeo Spider on the pit lane as well. Another bright yellow car.
He's getting yellow up there somewhere, right? He's got the electronics.
And it sounds like Larry Svaten, who is in the only Mazda, the other X19 that I hadn't talked about. Looks like he and another car got together up at the top of the hill. One of our Mini Coopers involved, and that could either be Frank Schwartz or Leanna Wright, who are our two H-production minis here today.
Well, or Lee Davis in the number 84.
Oh, yes, that's right.
Up in the B-Spec
B-Spec
class. You've got some Fiat there off in the distance. On the inside of the apex curve at turn number 3.
No, and we're looking here. Now, where was that? Chuck Mathis's.
That's a VW. That's not a.
Yeah, I think that's Chuck Mathis's VW, one of our H production machines now.
Yeah, the number
working
we
its way
got
down
was
the hill.
00.
Right,
so.
which was Larry's Phaeton. But
Yeah.
I mean, then Chuck Mathis is number 54. We'll try. Well, and we see here, it looks like, look at this, is the Volkswagen is going to the grass over at turn 4.
Yeah, just trying to stay out of the way there, Greg. I
Yeah.
think it's a tricky spot down there at the bottom of the S's. There's really no way to be offline because the racing light bounces between the left curve
to the
and
curve to the right curve, back and forth.
Yeah,
exactly.
all the way down the hill and up the hill on the other side, actually.
All right, so he's staying offline there. We'll try and get some more information as to what is going on. But they are covering that car with the white flag again, letting the other drivers know that there's a slower moving vehicle up ahead. All right, as we check in here, let's do this, Brendan. We're about just about 11 and a half minutes into this session. Let me make a first call to the grid for the next group, and we'll take a little break. Attention in the paddock, attention in the paddock. First call to the grid for race group 7, Spec Miata. Please start heading to the grid. Spec Miata racers, please head to the grid. Your qualifying session is next. So we'll take a quick break. We'll be back here in just a few moments with more qualifying action from Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta.
For more than 30 years, championship-winning drivers have demanded the Hawk Performance braking advantage. Now you can experience that same advanced technology on your daily car, truck, or CUV with Hawk Performance Street products. With brake pads, rotors, and fluids that deliver smooth braking for muscle cars and tuners, Super Duty solutions for tow vehicles, custom-engineered motorsports friction designed specifically for road racing, autocross, drag, and everything in between, Hawk has all your braking needs covered. Visit hawkperformance.com to learn more. Hawk Performance, what's stopping you?
Summit Racing is a proud partner of the SCCA and its nearly 70,000 members. Get more bang for your buck at summitracing.com. Choose millions of in-stock parts from over 1,500 name brands, parts for racing, street performance, trucks, plus tools, accessories, and more. Shop anytime, anywhere with a Summit Racing app.
Ready for a new race trailer? Bravo Trailers is the exclusive trailer partner of the SCCA. Owned by longtime SCCA racers, Bravo Trailers work better, load easier, and tow better because we build them with racers in mind. Visit bravotrailers.com to see your new trailer in aluminum or steel.
For more than 100 years, Sunoco, SCCA's official fuel partner since 2001, has been fueling victories on and off the track, which is why Sunoco has trusted the fuel over 50 series of racing, driving, and winning, including the SCCA National Championship runoffs, SCCA Pro Racing, Trans Am, and NASCAR. To find race gas near you, visit SunocoRacefuels.com or call Sunoco at 800-RACE-GAS.
Want to try SCCA racing, but with an appropriate focus on fun and learning? The SCCA Race Experience program is exactly that, with both short sprint races you can drive by yourself and endurance races you can do with friends. All you need is an SCCA membership, a driver's license, a properly equipped car, and the right driver gear. Visit scca.com/racex to find more information and events near you.
It's the 2025 Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour, the premier amateur road racing series bringing together top SCCA road racers from across the country. The Hoosier Super Tour visits some of the greatest tracks in North America, showcasing each of our 23 car classes. From production to GT cars, prototypes to Formula cars, the Hoosier SCCA Super Tour packs a ton of wheel-to-wheel racing action into every event.
Back at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, home of rounds 5 and 6 of the 2025 Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour. Brendan Kazmarek and Gregg Ginsberg. We've turned the tables on this one. Take a little bit of lead action here while Greg briefly steps away to check in with a guest of ours. 10 minutes remaining on the clock in Group 6, qualifying 1. This is the production cars, E, F, and H production, along with our B-Spec cars. Haven't really talked about B-Spec too much through the session to this point. Stuart Black and Gail Corley, 40 and 59 on the provisional front row. The margin there is just over 1/10 of a second. 150.959 is Stuart Black's provisional pole time. Babyface Josh Schmidt down in third place in class at the moment, supporter of our U.S. Majors Tour coverage back at Homestead Miami Speedway in January. Third place for Josh out of Kannapolis, North Carolina. Obviously the most famous racing driver to leave Kannapolis, North Carolina. And Chris Taylor in the number 134 Mazda 2, second, or I guess on the outside of the second row of the grid. Blair Deffenbaugh.
So you sound surprised. Blair actually took a Super Tour win here, I think it was 3 years ago, here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. I know, that was before you were born. I know.
May have been before Blair was born.
Well, yeah. Well, he had an excuse. He was on another brand tire at the time.
Ooh, personal best for Blair, actually. Jumps up onto the second row, displaces the Mazda 2 of Chris Taylor, and that Honda Fit number 87 within a half second of the provisional pole time. Half a second's a lot of time to find
it is.
in a B-Spec car.
Yes, it is. All right, just because I see him now heading back to the paddock, Mason Workman in the number 52 F Production Mazda Miata. He's your defending national champion. Currently your fastest driver in that class at a 139 flat, almost 9 tenths of a second up on Chris Bovis's Honda CRX. Ken Kennard, another 33 hundredths of a second back from there. In H Production, Jesse Prather with a little bit under 4 tenths up on Chuck Mathis. Mathis was and has his car on the pit lane. We got a little bit more information during the break.
Oh, okay.
There were actually the X19 was involved, Chuck Mathis, the orange VW involved, and Leanna Wright in her H Production Mini Cooper.
Got it. Okay.
Were involved, and we see that Leanna's still up there probably till the end of the session. So those three cars all got together at the entrance at turn number 3. Both Larry Sfayton and also Chuck Mathis on the pit lane currently. I know Mathis has gotten out of the car.
Yeah, what we're wondering about that Mathis car in particular is centered around the left rear of that orange VW. That car runs a fair amount of camber at the rear, which does help with grip under acceleration and also does hold a fair amount of heat in the rear tires as well. But that's the front wheel.
The Volkswagen, yes.
Yeah, so maybe helps with stability there as well. But it does look like the left rear has a bit of bodywork damage above and behind the left rear wheel arch. Yeah. And it also looks like potentially the left rear carrying quite a bit more camber than the right rear. So either that's just set up intentionally asymmetrically, or there is actually damage there. And now, is that Chuck Mathis looking under the rear of the car trying to...
looking under the car there.
I think that car's taking a whack to the left rear.
Let's see here. A number of other cars coming down the pit lane. We had Josh Schmidt in his B-Spec Chevy Sonic come down the pit lane. Looks like he's calling it a day. He is third fastest. We just had the H Production Mazda 2 of Jesse Prather come down the pit lane. Jesse still has a little bit less than 4 tenths of a second on Chuck Mathis. Steve Sargis, however, I believe is still out circulating in his Triumph Spitfire,
and
trying to move up the order.
PB.
Yes.
So with 13 thousandths of a second behind Chuck Mathis, with Chuck being done for the session, does have the opportunity to jump up onto the provisional front row in H Production for whatever that is worth.
Indeed, and so and Chris Albin another 1.3 seconds back from there. That's your top 4 in H Production. Let's see. We know Workman has gone back. I think Chris Bovis is still circulating in his F Production Honda CRX, as is Ken Kennard. And as a matter of fact, Chris Bovis just crosses the line, Brendan, and resets fast lap for F Production. Turns in a 138.576, almost 45 hundredths of a second, almost a full half second up on Mason Workman. And we know Workman's already taken his car back to the paddock, not going to be able to answer back. Ken Kennard crosses the line, turns in a personal best, but still 1.5 seconds off of Chris Bovis's times. In E Production, Tyler Ladd, when we had that, just after we had that incident up at turn 3, he brought the car down the pit lane. Tyler Ladd has retired to the pits, or to the paddock, but is still sitting atop the E Production leaderboard, about 3/4 of a second up on Peter Norton, with John Bauckham third fastest. And in B-Spec, we've got Stuart Black now sitting up at the top of the order with Gail Corley. And we know Corley and Taylor had gone out together early on in the session. We're drafting off of one another. in the two Mazda 2s. It looks like they did get separated at one point, and Chris Taylor, currently your 5th fastest driver in the class.
Yeah, I think most of them back into the pit lane now, Greg.
Yeah.
I know the number 40 of Stuart Black is down about mid-pit, and a couple other, looks like another Mazda 2 a little bit further down there. So I think that's probably all she wrote for the B-Spec. Most of the B-Spec field there. Haven't seen any big improvements over the last couple of laps. Most of the quickest laps for that B-Spec field on those Goodyear tires, set pretty early on in this 25-minute session. Are those tires marked, Greg?
B-Spec, no, they are not.
Okay. So there's the opportunity maybe to throw on a fresh set tomorrow morning if you wanted, and to try and set a quicker lap time in the cooler, presumably cooler conditions when these cars go qualifying at 6 is 10:30, 10:10.
10:10 tomorrow.
Yep, and then racing actually right around this time, 3:05.
Yeah, about 3:05 tomorrow.
They'll be on track at this hour, actually. Everything goes well. I can't believe I just said that.
No, you jinxed everything. All right, we just had Tom Burt take the number 0 Mazda RX-7, its 2nd gen RX-7 EP car, E-production car. Take it back to the paddock. Ken Kennard, our 2023 F-Production National Champion. He brings his car down the pit lane, and he's got the folks from Jesse Prather Motorsports looking that car over now. Looks like his session is, we've got a little bit less than 3 minutes remaining on the clock, likely done. Let's see some of the racers we still have on track and circulating. The number 50 machine is still out, and making its way around. That is Peter Norton in his Caterham, trying to find a way to leapfrog Tyler Ladd. Has not been able to reset personal best here in a couple of laps, though. We may have just gone beyond the capabilities of the tires there. The 62 machine, Rice Robinson, in his B-Spec Mazda 2, still on track, currently 7th fastest in a 9-car field. The number 9 car, that is Don Tucker in his E-Production Mazda Miata, trying to move up from 5th fastest in the class.
Joe McLuhan sets a PB on lap number.
Yes, he does.
36 Mazda 2. I don't think he improved position. Still down there, 6th out of the 9 cars to have set a time in this B-Spec class. But anyway, within 1.4 seconds of the class leader, and improving as the session goes, which is good stuff from Joe. Question from Austin in the chat: will B-Spec get a split start? We don't usually get that until after qualifying. Sometimes after whatever little miniature drivers meeting happens up at Impound. So we typically get that information in and around Q2.
Right.
So we'd expect to know that by tomorrow morning. But the assumption would be yes, with the 9-car B-Spec field. It seems pretty reasonable to me. Another PB from Joe, and a PB from the 62 of Rice Robinson. Those 2 Mazda 2s. Another yellow out of turn 7.
Yeah, we do have a car, sounds like it may have pulled off, drivers off, and that was Peter Norton in his Caterham, and he has now continued.
Oh, there it is.
Although maybe it wasn't Peter Norton, because the word from the corner station was that the car was green.
Well, you know, in a certain shade, a certain light, right?
Oh, yeah, maybe. Green and yellow, which is going to narrow things down just a little bit.
Remember the year the curbs here were green and yellow?
Yeah, well, before...
They kept the green and white and then just painted the white yellow. That was weird.
Yes.
It just felt like my TV was wrong. That was...
Maybe it was.
It might have been. That was a year or two prior to the Michelin sponsorship, before everything got painted blue and yellow. It's just altogether a little bit more cohesive.
All right, as the drivers now coming underneath the Fox Factory Bridge onto the front straight, they should see the checkered flag here momentarily as the clock hits the magic 25 minutes. Should also mention, I can't see who it is, but I have a great view of the starter stand and the person that holds the checkered flag, because they've got bunny ears on their hat.
Is that right?
Yes, and I can see the bunny ears over the little roof on the starter stand.
We just started Lent. We're nowhere near Easter.
You know, you ask a Jew to figure these things out. There you go. All I know is I'm eating meat tonight. All right, so the bunny rabbit throws the checkered flag. First driver to take the checker. One of our many Fiat X19s, and I think that's the Matt Brandon car that takes the checkered flag. Peter Norton does reset. So apparently it wasn't Peter Norton that went off at turn 7 because he did turn in his fastest lap of the session the last time by. Turns in a 1:36.822. That's still 0.6 of a second off of Tyler Ladd. But we've got a number of racers, I think, still on course and circulating through the back portion of the car. Oh, and Brendan, we do have a little bit more clarity on the green. Yes.
Greg. Pole for Peter Norton in E-Production.
Yes.
Quarter of a second as we come across the line underneath the checkered flag. That Caterham 7 picks up something like a full second on the last flying lap of the day. 1:35.977. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's fine.
Man.
Beat his previous best lap by 0.9 of a second.
Exactly.
And so Peter Norton pips Tyler Ladd for overall pole. And again, one more qualifying session to go before their race tomorrow afternoon, but by 0.25 of a second, by a quarter of a second, Tyler Ladd goes. I was just going to say that the car that is off track outside of turn 7, it is the number 46 Mazda 2 of John Robinson, the B-Spec car that is off there. And we had a local caution over at turn 7. Of course, Norton, I think, already knew that there was a car over there, so he knew what to do to set up for it. So one final car, I believe all the cars here now taking to the pit lane on their cool-down lap. So let's take a look. E-Production, we said Peter Norton, your fastest driver of all here in this group after one day of qualifying. Tyler Ladd, second fastest. John Balcom in his Alpha Spider, third fastest. Bill Miller, fourth. In F-Production, Chris Bovis with a 0.45 of a second advantage over defending national F-Production champion Mason Workman. Ken Kennard, third fastest. Steven Simons, fourth fastest. In H-Production, Jesse Prather with a 0.38 of a second advantage over Chuck Mathis, with Steve Sargis, third fastest. Chris Albin, fourth fastest. And then in B-Spec, Stuart Black with a 0.12 of a second advantage over Gail Corley. Josh Schmidt, third fastest. Blair Deffenbaugh, fourth fastest. All right, Brendan, let's make a final call to the grid for our final qualifying group of the day. Attention in the paddock. Final call to the grid for race group number 7, Spec Miata. Spec Miata racers, please head to the grid. Your qualifying session is next. Spec Miata to the grid. And now we'll take a break. We'll be back here in just a few moments, and one more qualifying session here today from Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. We'll be back.
My customer experience with Mazda has been absolutely fantastic.
I'm probably not the richest person out here, and they're extremely reasonably priced, and you can buy parts easily, and it's a class that fits both what I want from a racing standpoint and what I can afford.
We got into Mazdas largely just because it's a fantastic platform, and Mazda Motorsports has some of the best support for the grassroots racer in parts and technical advice and everything else, so they make it easy for us to run these cars.
it is also our final qualifying session of the day. And next up is Spec Miata. And we've got, I think, somewhere close to 35 drivers looking to set times and help set the grid for our races that start tomorrow afternoon. And before we get underway with the action here with Spec Miata, I wanted to thank one of our Spec MX-5, we'll say families, as during the last race we had Rocco Pasquarella, driver of the number 195 SMX car, come up to deliver a little care package to Brendan and myself. Mrs. Pasquarella, apparently, not apparently, I can tell you, after having eaten some of them at Sebring, bakes a mean cookie, Brendan.
Yeah.
And Rocco brought some more by for us. And you know, the only thing that I can say is, too bad, Brian Bielanski. You won't have a chance to take
Brian,
one.
I think poor Brian could use a couple of cookies at this point. I think Brian's had a tough day over there.
Yeah, we got word. Don't know if his Honda Fit will be competing at Solo Nationals again this year.
No, Brian's okay. His wife's okay. But car took a bit of a beating out there in California today. So expect to have Brian back with us tomorrow. Unfortunately, these Super Tour weekends have not been the kindest to Brian. Missed out on Friday at Sebring. With the California wildfires, got out of that okay, and obviously now dealing with a little bit more of a challenge this weekend for rounds 5 and 6. But nice to be with Brian out at Buttonwillow Raceway Park last time around, and happy to say I've been able to keep his seat warm.
Yes.
Here on the Fridays in the meantime.
Yeah, I'm sure he's very grateful that you have done that. All right, so on track right now, we got our drivers setting their first flying laps now. In practice this morning, Skip Brock Jr. Was your fastest driver on track, and just to give you an idea of where the lap times are, he turned in a 1:42.071. Actually, Skip Brock Jr. may not have been the fastest driver. I'm showing that, yeah.
No, what happens, Greg, is when they come across the line, it resets. If you're looking here on race.
Yeah.
When they come across the line, the first car to trip timing on track will go to the top of the sheet.
Well,
and give you the on track order.
Right. Well, but I'm looking at it. I've got provisional times from their practice this morning.
Look at you, all prepared.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, where were they for the first 6 groups? No, can't tell you. But so it was Skip Rock Jr. and then Sean Noonan. They were separated by just about 0.8 of a second. And then Bobby Gossett, who was coming off of his not his debut, it was his second weekend in Global MX-5 Cup this past weekend at St. Petersburg.
Streamed an onboard.
Yes, he did.
Bobby Gossett.
Yes, he did, and I thought he handled himself quite well. Both he and Ethan Goulart as well. Goulart having a very successful day and down there at St. Petersburg. The second day, I think he had some mechanical issues. Unfortunately, had to retire the car, but did very, very well. And so good to see them. Travis Wiley, talk about somebody who's had some MX-5 Cup experience. Travis returning to Spec Miata. I think we had him down at the Sebring to start off the Super Tour. Been a couple of years away, about 2 years, I think, away from Spec Miata. He used to call Texas home, now Mooresville, and he puts in a 1:43.3 to kick off this qualifying session with Sean Noonan, Dan Williams, and Ethan Goulart, your top 4. Goulart, of course, your defending national champion in Spec Miata.
One of the things I'm really enjoying, Greg, in these early stages of qualifying 1 for Spec Miatas here. These cars are so soft and so compliant. Watching them down the hill through the S's there, they actually use a fair bit of curb left to right, and then again as you climb the hill at turn 5, left side tires all the way up over that apex curb on the left-hand side. I don't think I've seen any other group this weekend do that.
Yeah.
But such is the compliance of these NA and NB Miatas that you can really attack and kind of need to attack those curves just to open up the corner, even just a couple of feet, as much as you can, and carry up speed over the exit curve. Up over the top of the hill at turn 5.
As a matter of fact, I think probably the only other class that we have that can do that, and I think is softly sprung enough, are the B-Spec cars.
Yeah.
Probably, and again, and just like Spec Miata, you want to open up these corners, have as little steering input as possible going into the corners in order to maintain momentum. As we've got at least one car now, he's going into turn 1 now, came a little bit offline, I think, to let some other cars through.
provisional pole sitter, James
Newell.
Is that a name we've called before?
Certainly not sitting at the top on the top of the leaderboard.
I didn't think so.
No, he's out of Old Hickory, Tennessee. And let's see here if I've got any information on James. Unfortunately, I don't. I'll bet you somebody in the chat does. Go ahead, chat. Let us know. Oh, yeah, and look at this. We've got in the chat right now, we've got Danny Stain.
Yeah.
And talking about, of course, his old OPM teammate, Chuck McTudis, who is sitting second currently on track with a time of 1:43.308. Right between James Newell and Travis Wiley. Let's get Brock down the fourth fastest, Max Stallone. We should have some onboard video, onboard camera work from hopefully this session. Currently sitting fifth.
Yeah, Ethan Goulart already picked up a couple of race wins over the 2025 season. I think back at Sebring. Possibly back at the Homestead for the U.S. Majors Tour event there as well.
Yes, he did.
Way down at East, way down. It's still top 20%, but seventh in class at the moment for young Ethan. And I think we've got the father-son duo from the Goularts just ahead of this onboard camera we have from Max Stallone. Come across the line, see what we reset here. Stallone goes P3, Matt Stretch up into P2 in the number 89. Newell still has a provisional pole, but instead of it being a quarter of a second gap back to P2, it's down underneath a tenth of a second from Newell to Stretch. McTudis falls to fourth, Wiley to fifth. Ethan Goulart, we were just talking about, all the way down to ninth in that number 72.
Yeah, and so Max Stallone, who we're watching on board right now, currently sitting third behind his Wheels America teammate, Matt Stretch. And looking to see if that's Stretch directly ahead, but they are separated by all of 39 one-thousandths of a second at the moment on the clock.
Wasn't the Goulart duo? That's just who's the yellow? That's Ethan, right?
Ethan.
Yellow trim Goulart. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
One's green and one's yellow, I believe.
Sorry, it's the green. Yeah, green trim.
Yes.
Yeah. Is the second one there?
Yeah, there they are. When I say there they are, they're in the middle of a pack of like 10 cars.
You could kind of see how Max Stallone set up his lap here from the onboard. You need the draft for as much of the track as you can get it, but what you need is the pull. It's not necessarily that you need to be nose to tail, right up against the car in front of you.
It's to be able to make up the ground to the car ahead of you and not lose it as you then get to this area where you're then pulling up the hill.
Exactly, right? So if you can go full send through sector 1 all the way down from turns 1 to 5 and then make up the speed on the back straightaway with, what's ostensibly here about a car length and a half maybe, you can pull in some time here. Does not improve this time around. In fact, nobody really improves. First improvement further down the grid is Olivier Piatek in the number 62 down in P12.
And Piatek out of Duluth, Georgia. This is his local track. I've done quite a bit of iRacing with Olivier, and again, as you mentioned, gets around leapfrogs Christian Meyer in the order there to move up to 12th. We take a look. Yeah,
this number 70 Creek Speed car the green trim car we were talking about. So Ethan is in the 72 in the yellow trim car.
Right.
This is Elvin Goulart's car, is it not?
I was fairly certain that was. So
it is.
Ethan Ethan's in the 72, and then in the 70 machine, yeah, I thought that was Elvin's car.
It's not. It's James Newell.
Newell.
That's the pole sitter.
Ah, okay.
So this is a bit of Krug Speed dominance here, a little power play out of the Krug Speed camp. Elvin comes out of the car after backing up Ethan to a couple of race wins now over the last 6 months or so.
Yeah.
They install James Newell into that number 70 and picking up exactly where Elvin left off.
Okay, so
very cool.
All right, so let's see what they do. Is he's now picked up our camera car, Max Stallone. Now, as they're going to crest over the top of the hill and head down into the braking zone over in turn 10A.
Oh, Nicole Cooper-Cephalo says Elvin sold his car. Elvin isn't running. He sold his car. Yeah, I wonder if James bought the car there. Word is it's his 4th Spec Miata race, which, maybe we've seen it before. We haven't called the name a whole heck of a lot here over the last couple of races, Greg, but to be in your 4-spec Miata race, you're in a really, really competitive piece of kit, obviously, and sat provisional pole up until lap 5 this qualifying session, where now provisional pole goes to Sean Noonan in the number 0. Skip Brock in the 61 to the outside of the front row, at least for the time being, and that demotes the 70 Creek Speed car of James Gould down to 3rd. Chuck McTutis into P4 in the number 66. Then Matt Stretch and Max Stallone, as we were talking about before, now P5 and P6 respectively. Now a good time for a break, Greg.
Yeah, I think you're right here, as we're just about halfway through this final 25-minute qualifying session of the day. We'll be back here in just a few moments with more action from Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta. It's the 2025 Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour.
Hoosier Racing Tire is proud to be the presenting sponsor of this year's Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour. As the world's largest race tire manufacturer, Hoosier has been at the forefront of motorsports innovation for more than 65 years. From local tracks to the global stage, Hoosier is dedicated to delivering high-performance tires that meet the demands of champions. Whether you're a seasoned competitor or an aspiring racer, Hoosier tires are engineered to help you push the limits. For more information, visit us online at HoosierTire.com or visit us trackside, and remember to connect with us on social media.
Summit Racing is a proud partner of the SCCA and its nearly 70,000 members. Get more bang for your buck at summitracing.com. Choose from millions of in-stock parts from over 1,500 name brands, parts for racing, street performance, trucks, plus tools, accessories, and more. Shop anytime, anywhere with the Summit Racing app.
Hagerty is the official and exclusive insurance partner for SCCA. Hagerty provides affordable off-track insurance protection for motorsports vehicles while in the paddock, in transit, in storage, and at the shop. They provide guaranteed value coverage and even have protection for your trailers. SCCA members can save 5% on insurance through Hagerty. Hagerty, let's drive together. Learn more at Hagerty.com.
Mazza Vineyards is the exclusive sparkling wine for podium celebrations at the Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour, SCCA Runoffs, and Tire Rack SCCA Pro Solo. Celebrate your racing weekend with Mazza Vineyards and learn more at enjoymazza.com.
For more than 30 years, championship-winning drivers have demanded the Hawk Performance braking advantage. Now you can experience that same advanced technology on your daily car, truck, or CUV with Hawk Performance Street products. With brake pads, rotors, and fluids that deliver smooth braking for muscle cars and tuners, Super Duty solutions for tow vehicles, custom-engineered motorsports friction designed specifically for road racing, autocross, drag, and everything in between, Hawk has all your braking needs covered. Visit hawkperformance.com to learn more. Hawk Performance, what's stopping you?
If you like what you see today, become part of the action by joining the Sports Car Club of America. Whether you want to drive, flag, organize, officiate, have fun with cars, or meet 65,000 enthusiast friends, SCCA offers plenty to feed your motorsports obsession. Ask someone trackside how to get involved, or visit SCCA.com for more information.
Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta, the 2025 Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour. It is Spec Miata qualifying, and your provisional pole sitter at the moment is Sean Noonan out of Newburgh, New York, with a qualifying time of 1:42.848. That is 73/1000ths of a second up on former runoffs pole sitter Chuck McTutis out of Little Mountain, South Carolina. Skip Brock, another 1/10 of a second back from there. James Newell, who had been sitting atop the leaderboard for a couple laps, he now falls back to 4th, and he's only 41/100ths of a second back from Brock, only 2/10 of a second off of the pole at the moment. Matt Stretch and Max Stallone, 5th and 6th fastest. Ethan Goulart, our defending national champion, 7th fastest. Then Dan Williams, Travis Wiley, and Bobby Gossett rounding out the top 10.
A little bit more background on James Newell, thanks to Mitch Wright in the YouTube chat.
Yeah, thanks, Mitch.
4th SM race weekend, but his first SCCA race with that Mazda Miata. Has 10 years of kart racing experience, made the switch to cars this season. He is 16.
Well, that would explain why a 16-year-old didn't think it was important enough to send me a driver bio, Brendan.
Well, first SCCA race.
Yeah, he does.
Maybe learn these things a little bit
exactly.
time.
Yep, absolutely. But thank you, Mitch, so much for that info. We really appreciate it, and hopefully we can learn more about young Mr. Newell here soon enough.
It seems like we're going to be learning really quickly about
Yes.
Mr. James Newell. Yeah, really off to a really good start this his first competitive session in an SCCA weekend with that number 70 Spec Miata car. Chuck McTutis up to P2 on the provisional timing sheets now. Reset to PB again. Gets within
73 one-thousandths of a second.
Yeah, you know, Greg, it's tough. I mean, the margins in Spec Miata are so fine, right? You can inch up to whatever your target time is, and you can get closer and closer and closer. But those extra hundredths, those extra thousandths of a second are so much harder to find. It's asymptotic, let's say, right? You can approach it, but you may never actually get
there.
That number. And you're almost never going to take those big chunks of time out of your previous laps.
Yeah, you know, and as we were talking and as we saw during the open wheel group, where, you know, sometimes you get to the point where you maybe drive up a little either beyond the car's capabilities, or in most cases, I think it's more your capabilities, and it turns for naught. Like it did for him, you know. But as we're watching these Spec Miatas again use all the curbing, trying to open up these corners as much as possible, you know, it is literally a game of inches over 12 different corners around the course.
Well, and let's not forget that being quick in Spec Miata kind of requires two different skill sets. You know, on one hand, you need to be able to operate well in qualifying out on your own. You do still need a draft and a slipstreaming partner in order to get the most out of these cars. Their ultimate performance is best in a group. But then racing these cars requires a completely different skill set, where you need not only the ability to drive the car quickly by its own merit, but you also need effective communication with the drivers around you. You need to be able to set appropriate... Sorry, Greg, what are you pointing to?
So, Brendan, real quick, we've got a local caution over at turn 1.
Okay.
And I believe we've got a car off up against the wall, drivers left, about halfway up. Yep, there he is right there. And so what we are starting to see is a quick exodus of drivers now coming down the pit lane here. As you see many more starting to do it as they realize that likely they're going to be having to get out of the throttle a little bit coming up the hill out of turn 1, and might impact their ability to reset fast laps.
Yeah, the image Jordan gave us there at the end of turn 1 did have a pretty solid black mark against the white paint of the conveyor belt that surrounds the tire barriers there. I think that car has been in the wall reasonably well over there. I don't know that it's gonna be able to continue on its own.
Yeah.
And with only 6.5 minutes left on the clock, none of this is really surprising.
Yeah, we're trying to get the number on that car now. I believe, Brendan, it is the number 92 car of Christian Meyer.
Okay, another long off here at the exit of turn number 7. Catch the number on that car as it went past our camera up there at 8, but a good long off with foot firmly in the throttle there at the exit of 7. Skip Brock resets his personal best, 143.025. Still sits third overall, and this is exactly what we were just talking about, Greg. These extra hundredths or thousandths are really hard to come by, and even if you can reset the time, it's maybe not going to be enough to go actually make up the difference to the car that you're trying to beat.
Yeah, indeed. And so Skip Brock Jr., I'm fairly certain, was your 2024 American Road Race of Champions winner in Spec Miata, and again knows he's from Birmingham, Alabama, but has been racing this track for many years. Had been racing under the OPM tent that was based for so many years here out of just outside of Road Atlanta with Tom Fowler, teammates to Chuck McTutis as well as Danny Stain. And now we are starting to see more and more cars come to the pit lane with about 5 minutes remaining on the clock. Skylar Cottrell now moves into the top 10. Driver of the number 9 machine turns in a 143.181. That is good for 6th fastest. And I'd say we still have maybe 10 cars maybe a little bit more than that out and circulating on course. Bobby Gossett just turned in. Actually, no, this is a leftover from lap 5. Bobby Gossett turned in 5 laps, and on his final lap put in a 1:43.3 and then brought the car back behind the wall. Right now, Gossett, who had been up in the top 5, now 11th fastest in the field.
Is that the 9 car? Is that Cottrell or Cottrell?
Cottrell.
Skylar Cottrell had jumped up into P9 a little bit earlier, now jumps up into P6. So unlike Skip Brock, who's clawing after thousands and really only getting thousands, I think Skylar there is getting a couple more bigger chunks out of things and moves himself up from the provisional 5th row up to the provisional 3rd row. With one more qualifying session for these cars still to come tomorrow morning, Greg?
Indeed, and
10:30?
About let me check the let me check the clock. Yeah, 10:35.
Ah, so good.
Should be the start time for our final qualifying session of the weekend before we go racing tomorrow. As we've got a car off, it sounds like over at turn 7 as well. Well, actually, it was the continued on the 1-4 car. Now back underway. That was Christopher Gueram out of Lake Mary, Florida, who had just set his personal best lap time on the session. Currently 28th in the field, looking to improve a little bit, and maybe got a little bit beyond the.
This is the way it goes a lot of times.
The capabilities of something.
Much like with mechanical failures, it's always quickest right before it blows up.
Yeah.
A lot of times drivers are always quickest right before they go off.
And they think they can do better.
Exactly. Well, and you're just, okay.
They think they're in a groove.
Even good drivers, right?
Yeah.
You're going to push up to that limit, get a little bit closer. Every now and then you overstep the limit.
You go over.
It happens. Yeah, right? And you learn, you say, hey, car's not going to be able to do that again. We're not going to try it. And you just dial it back just a touch, and you settle into that sort of pace right there.
All right, looks like we got a bit of a drag race going on here on the back straight. 3 cars now working together. Maybe not drag race, but using the draft to their advantage to do a little leapfrog there. And as they come down, we'll check and see if we have any new fast laps. As I take a look at the great timing and scoring that we have available to you on SCCA.com/live. Scott Phillips may be on a flyer at the moment. And indeed, Scott Phillips crosses the line, but does not reset his personal best. He turns in a 1:44.166. That's good for 17th. He had Matt Novak out of Bartlett, Illinois, along with him in that train. Novak, though, does put in a new personal best at a 1:44.235. 69 thousandths back from Phillips. That's good for 18th.
The dying minutes here of qualifying 1, Greg. Under a minute and a half left for Group 7. Be the last group of the day. Close up shop here, then head to qualifying 2 first thing tomorrow morning.
That's it. So, of course, make sure to join us tomorrow and Sunday. Action starts here on same YouTube channel, SCCA official YouTube channel at 8 a.m. or Cars on Course at 8:05 a.m. And we'll start things all over again tomorrow morning. Second qualifying session for each of our 7 race groups, and then we go racing right at about 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. We'll have 2 races before lunch, and then we'll conclude the day with 5 Super Tour races in a row. These are all 25-minute sprint races, so definitely make sure to join us. And, of course, we do it all again on Sunday. So love to have you, and as time runs down and action runs down here in Spec Miata, let's take a look at our trio as they come up the hill and see if they can improve.
Yeah, it's a good formation here down the hill from 11 to 12.
All right, and getting word from race control that the next driver to come underneath the Fox Factory Bridge and across the finish line should see the checkered flag. That last time by no improvements from our drivers. Actually, I take that back. Alfred Wingo in the number 108 machine out of Altamonte Springs, Florida, just turned in a 1:48.549, who reset his personal best.
You know, this second car in line here is James Newell in the number 70. Is that? No, it's not. It's
No.
the 11. It makes a lot of sense, actually. Go get some extra experience. Even if the times, even if you're not going to improve your time, get a little bit more comfortable behind the wheel of the car, running in a group, that sort of thing. On the other hand, 2025 Spec Miata does utilize a tire marking program, so more laps on the tires is just life you're taking out of them for, not necessarily for this next qualifying session or race one, but by the time we get to the end of 19 laps or 35 minutes of racing come Sunday afternoon, in the heat of the day, those tires are going to be fuel.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Hoosier SM 7.5s that all of our Spec Miata racers run, they've got longevity, and they really degrade very little over the course of an extended race distance, but over 4 different race sessions, it might be something a little different.
And especially in a class where we talk about thousandths of a second. Right?
Yes.
Even just 0.5% of grip that goes away, or half a grip of percentage less that you're able to manage the tires over the course of a long race weekend is eventually that rent is going to come due.
Yeah.
And at the end of the feature race, let's call it the feature race, the 19-lap, 35-minute race on Sunday, it's a lousy time to be out of grip, right? Or have less grip than the cars around you. You really want to have something to fight with later.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those racers that are trying to pick up the extra 10th or 100th of a second during our qualifying sessions today or tomorrow, might come back to bite them on Sunday afternoon.
Just real quick, Greg, before you begin our wrap-up procedures here, now that we've had our last checkered flag of the day, this will be my last time on the microphone of the weekend before we turn things over to Brian Bielanski and yourself for qualifying 2 and racing action for the rest of the weekend. 2 quick shout-outs. One to all of our volunteers who are with us this weekend. As you said, something close to 100 or over 100 in between flagging communications, grid, scrutineering and tech, timing and scoring over here, the stewards, everybody involved. Right?
Don't leave anybody out, yes.
I won't. But I do need to call out one person in particular who I believe is the hardest working person on the grounds of MRRA this weekend. And that is Clark McInnes, your race chair. I think the race chair can be a very thankless job sometimes. And the number of times I've had to find Clark, track him down, or I've just bumped into him and we've had to exchange information, it's been pretty much constant over the course of the weekend. If you see Clark, thank him for the work he's doing this weekend. Yeah. I've definitely gone out of my way to try and do that. He is working very, very hard to put on a really, really great event here, along with the rest of the Atlanta region staff, and does deserve a big thank you certainly from me, but from everybody participating here this weekend as well.
Yeah, indeed. And Clark, lots of hats in the SCCA. He is the assistant regional executive for the Atlanta region of the SCCA, besides playing this role. And again, one of the shining stars here of what is a club, and everybody as we see to make these weekends work. They are all pitching in wherever needed and whenever possible. So thank you to everybody here, not only from members of the Atlanta region of the SCCA, but all of the surrounding regions. We've got folks from all up and down the Eastern Seaboard here working at this event. So for Brendan Kazmarek, I'm Gregg Ginsberg. Also, thank you so much to Jordan Worth, our director. We will be back on air tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. with more qualifying and race action from Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta and the 2025 Hoosier Racing Tire SCCA Super Tour. Have a great evening, everybody.